option to wait. I'll take a chance and let you in. Just take my hand and take me home tonight. We defeat all impossibilities. Yeah, you and me. We'll take our hearts and run free into the
Good evening, gamers and college sports fans. Welcome to Week 2 of the Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers Spring Season. I'm Jake Superman Mori, and alongside me today is the play-by-play paladin himself, Ben Jihadre Sorensen. We're casting live from the historic Einar Nielsen Fieldhouse at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. Tonight, we'll have the opportunity to watch as the University of Arizona takes on the Washington State University, and later we'll see a matchup between Stanford University and the University of Oregon. We'll see them once again. We're still in the first couple weeks, though, of PACG, so for this spring tournament, how about you let us know about how it's going to run down?
I will do that. Thank you very much. So the PACG spring season is actually going to be 4 different tournaments. One for League of Legends, one for Hearthstone, another for Overwatch, and finally Rocket League. For the next 8 weeks, the best players from 10 schools are going to go head-to-head every weekday right in the group stages. League of Legends players will be playing every Monday and Wednesday night starting at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, that is 6 p.m. Pacific. Schools are split into 2 regions, North and South, and each school will have the chance to face every other school in their region in a best-of-3 match. At the end of the group stage, the top 3 teams from each region will go to the playoffs. That's a single elimination bracket with the top team advancing directly to the semifinals. It all ends with Finals Week, when the final games for League of Legends, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Rocket League will all be played in one high-octane week.
Absolutely. I'm way looking forward to the end of the 8-week regular series. And to give our viewers a better idea as to how this is all set up to play out, let's take a look at those groups. So as you can see, in the South region, we have University of Arizona, Arizona State University, University of California, Los Angeles, University of Southern California, and Washington State University.
There in the North region, we can see Stanford University, University of Oregon, University of Arizona, Stanford University, and Washington State University. Correction, sorry, that is the University of Utah. My sincere apologies.
And then it looks like if we're looking ahead for the schedule coming up here, you know that tonight will be the first matches for most of our featured teams. But if you joined us on Valentine's Day, you got to see Oregon's convincing 2-0 against Colorado. We'll see if they can make it a win streak by defeating Stanford tonight. Otherwise, Arizona, Washington State University, and Stanford are all surely looking for a win tonight to join Oregon near the top of the standings early on.
Enough. I want to talk about tonight's matchup first. I want to see the University of Arizona versus Washington State University. That's where no more standings. Let's talk about these guys right here.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be the first showing for both of these two teams. We've seen ASU before, but not University of Arizona. And though you and I have casted UW before, we've not actually seen Washington State University ever perform on stream. So I'm excited to get my first look at these two teams.
Same here. We've seen a lot of players, and we've seen good teams, bad teams. I wanna find out where these guys are. I have high expectations because of the way their sister schools have performed.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm thinking tonight is going to be a good game.
Yeah, you mentioned sister schools. UW, actually, not the team we're seeing here, not even the same school, but UW actually won the first season of Collegiate Law.
Hey,
that was Riot sponsored. But, yeah, let's look at these team lineups here. Introducing the Washington State University's Cougars. We have Drubin in the top lane, Power Kook in the jungle with Filthy Hippie. I like that. In the mid lane. And then, of course, paired up in the bot lane, we got Mistro on AD carry with Boodles on support.
And then here for Arizona in the top lane, we have the Anguished One, God the King in the jungle, Meteors falling in the mid lane, ADC Win. Thank you for helping me learn to pronounce that.
Absolutely,
Just a little lesson out there for everybody. Win. And then Mr. Sphex running support.
Should be a pretty good matchup. Looking at these two teams, neither one of these teams is more stacked than the other. They're pretty well matched up in terms of overall solo queue ratings and the like. So I imagine it'll be a pretty close matchup between these two. We're just going to take a moment before we hop right into Champion Select to make sure the players are all ready for it. And before we do, I wanted to give everybody the announcement. We have League of Legends on both Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yes.
So much action that you guys can check out for PACG. I would love to have as many viewers come and check that out as possible, simply because this is like the new age of collegiate sports. It's not traditional sports, it's esports.
And esports is, this sounds so cliche, but it's the way of the future.
Yeah.
Right? These things aren't going away. Overwatch is super popular. It's one of the top watched games on Twitch. League of Legends is the #1 on Twitch. I happened to look through that list a little bit earlier today, and just so much good going on. So many people putting in the time. So many things coming out of it. I am excited, and to be a part of the beginning of that is sincerely a pleasure. Thank you for being here with me.
Oh,
Superman.
yeah. It's always my pleasure to cast alongside you, Ben. Let's get into Champion Select here. As you can see it on your screen. Again, this is Arizona, University of Arizona versus Washington State University. We'll begin to see the bands come through. Talk to me, Ben. What do you think about these two bands coming through here? The Skarner, I think, is pretty standard. We've seen it a lot in LCS.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to me. Skarner, he's strong. He's got decent crowd control with the E and then getting the auto attack to stun, and then of course the ultimate that makes him. It's the most popular move of his, is that stinger that just grabs someone and drags them into your team. But it's so hard to do that in the middle of a fight, like with 5 people, to get it onto the right target. And so I haven't seen why it's become so popular, but it is strong, especially in these kind of mid to low high tier levels of play, picking off a carry. But I love the Taric ban. I do not like fighting Taric.
Yeah,
that ultimate is ridiculous.
Yeah, the Cosmic Radiance can be absolutely insane. I do think it's rather balanced because of its massive cooldown.
Yeah.
But if it's available for a team fight and used properly, it's essentially like having, well, it really is exactly like having 5 KO ultimates go off at once, or up to 5, I should say, at the minimum 2, right? Or at least 1 if it. Oh, well, okay. So no minimum, because you could actually kill someone while it's channeling. But the channel time's not that long. You can set it up pretty well, and you can have up to 5 people become invulnerable for a rather significant duration.
And that's not the only thing, right? He gets the Relic Shield. He gives you the hit points back. He has a heal. He gives you armor. He's got a stun in lane. Just a really good pick, especially in the meta right now. I don't know what to think of Arizona's follow-up bans with the Kennen and the Thresh. They're probably more targeted than anything else. So not a lot to say there, but I love the Gnar and the Sejuani bans, 2 very strong champions in the meta right now. I think that those 2 are key. If you don't want to fight them, get rid of them.
Yeah, and leaving still a number of jungle picks available, I would expect to see like Jarvan particularly, stolen away here for the jungle here in Arizona, if they're not looking to ban it in the next phase, or excuse me, unless they have some like sort of pocket pick, they banning, meaning Washington State, because Washington State has already picked their jungler and their support now, and since they banned away Sejuani and Skarner's banned away from Arizona, there's very little left in the upper tiers of the jungle meta, so it's kind of sketchy for Arizona not to pick a jungler in this first rotation.
Yeah.
So I hope to see them doing just that. But you can see, there's the supports. Those tanky frontline initiation champions that we're used to seeing in the current meta. I'm excited to see these picks. I want to see those aggressive plays from the supports. I'm partial to them myself.
We've seen a lot of Braum and a lot of Alistar. They're very, very key to initiations and to peeling for your carry, especially these two. Amazing plays have come out of them in this tournament specifically, but there's your jungle pick, locking in the Jax for God the King. Kind of an appropriate name there because Jax thinks really highly of himself too. He might just be the king.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if he actually had a real weapon,
nice.
Especially in the jungle there. I do expect it to be the Jax jungle. There's not a lot of other options for Jax right now, especially when everything goes right through the Counter-Strike in top lane.
Yeah.
I have to throw out a couple memes there, but yeah, he's actually quite strong in the jungle, and like I said, if you don't pick a jungler in this first rotation, you kind of pigeonhole yourself into a really bad spot in this draft for Arizona, so I do like to pick up, whether it's Jax or another, at least they're choosing their jungler on this first round.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with what they can then ban. You do what's called pinching. We can see it right here. Both teams are banning mid laners, so they're wanting to, if you didn't pick your jungler, like you said, there are only so many to pick. So if they, in their ban phase, Washington State could have taken out Jarvan and Jax and left you with something like Nidalee or Udyr or something like that. And you don't want that. You want to pick it. You want to get it out there. But even more mid lane pinching here. Ryze coming out, Orianna, just so much.
Yeah, and it seems that Azir and Ryze are going to be targeted against Meteors. Meteors here, those are some of his top lane champions. He's very strong on the AoE mages. Banning out the Orianna kind of tells me that if that's not just like a comfort pick for a Filthy Hippie, it's a decent ban overall. Orianna going to be strong regardless. But more importantly, she can be very strong into a lot of otherwise comfortable AoE mages like Azir and others, where you're hoping to ban that away so that you can play a comfort pick. I am not sure which that'll be. I'm actually expecting Cassid in here, not only because Meteors plays it a lot, but because the repositioning tool from a Cassidin can be really strong against the current composition that's been drafted here from Washington State, and Ahri particularly as a ban tells me he doesn't want the he wants to maybe play the Cassidin because Ahri particularly does particularly well. Can follow, but also you can insta charm on the Rift Walk, and so you can actually predict things pretty easily. So we'll have to see what comes through for the solo lanes of Arizona as we see Shen now definitely going to be top lane here for Washington State.
Shen is one of my favorite champions. He is durable. He deals max health damage when he pulls the Spirit Blade to him. He's got the taunt, great for setting up team fights. And then the Stand United is one of the coolest ultimates in the game. You know, giving the shield, showing up out of nowhere, it gives you so much more presence on the map that only the likes of Galio and Karthus can really match in, or I guess technically Soraka as well, just not, you know, as aggressive. But I've seen Cho'Gath to be a decent lane matchup into the Shen.
I do like that you were mentioning some globals there because as the draft was coming through, I'm noticing that for Arizona, the one thing that they were missing, and I was hoping either Castin would apply or what we see now, and I like it, that Talia can apply, is quasi-global map pressure, the ability to roam, and as many casters in the LCS have done, those after-hours shows from the pro scene that some people like to watch. What there's a lot of talk about in competitive League of Legends right now is how mid lane is rather quiet, and it all depends on roaming to get your side lanes ahead, whether that be bottom lane or top lane, depending on where you want your strengths to be as just like your team. Where are your best players? Where is your best composition? What plays best to your strengths? And mid lane almost ends up just being a support role in the way that it roams to help set those advantages ahead. So without the Cassidin pick coming through, it ends up being the Talia. I do like this because it can match the Shen's kind of global pressure while his ult is off cooldown. And then we'll have to see if there's some sort of mid lane champion that can apply pressure to the Talia, that can either match the global pressure or that can keep her shoved under turret so that she has only the option to roam if she wants to miss out on that kind of CS. If she's at her turret, if she's pushed in, she can't roam, she's going to miss out on that. So you either have someone who can match her global pressure, like still Cassian available, or I don't expect to see Karthus. Yeah, Aurelion Sol would be a good one too, but either a wave clear champion or a semi-global.
Right, and getting those matchups is really important, because if you do have a roamer from the mid lane, most mid laners aren't really designed to take turrets anymore. You know, when we had assassins into the likes of Kha'Zix and Zed and, you know, that Talon, those guys can take turrets, but it's really not the job of a mage or, you know, one of those other roamers. Galio would be another really good pick into that. And as we are getting these picks into LCS order, we have been told that the final pick is Xerath here for Filthy Hippie. And I like it. I think that will do exactly what you were talking about. Either get the push underneath the turret or at least have the pressure to stay even in the lane so that the roam can always be answered.
And there we go.
There
Get the graphic on your screen. Interestingly enough, it's cool that Xerath almost falls into both of those categories I was asking for. Semi-global as well as wave clear. You can shove in as well as Talia can, if not better on Xerath, depending on who manages their mana better. And then, of course, your ultimate has extremely long range as Xerath, and so you should be able to contribute to fights even if you're not on the same screen as Talia showing up somewhere with her ultimate.
Yeah, and another thing about Talia is that her ultimate is so non-combative, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great roaming tool. It's a great zoning tool because, you know, you have to burn something to get over the wall. You know, Ezreal and Graves and Kha'Zix and all those guys with jumps and leaps and dashes, you can use it, but usually it's to get close enough to, say, an objective like a turret or an inhibitor or a Baron or a Drake. And you don't want to use that aggressively when the rest of your team isn't there. You want to be able to get out of things. So it stops a lot of things and is a lot more useful in that kind of a way. It will not deal damage, but it's an interesting thing. I think that's why we don't see Talia as much outside of the pro scene, because it literally doesn't. It doesn't deal any damage.
Yeah, she's really strong for what we were talking about mid lane is almost used for now, which is to roam.
Yeah.
But outside of that, until she gets a couple of items, the very least of which has to be Leandri, she's not actually going to deal as much damage with even her entire kit.
Yeah.
It has to be very burst focused, and unless she does land multiple rounds of the same skill shot over and over and over again, she's not going to be able to put out the same level of damage as someone like Xerath. Not even close. And his is much more reliable and further range. So in terms of just the damage potential, you're absolutely right. Xerath takes the cake here, bar none. But hopefully the reason they picked Talia is precisely for the reasons we were talking about.
Yeah, get objective control.
Yeah.
Stop those Drake invades. Stop the Baron steals. Stop everything like that. Just section off the map. That's the biggest point about it, is you can literally decide where your opponents can and cannot go.
And what I do like about the composition that Arizona drafted here is that I just mentioned for Talia, most of her damage relies on comboing things, a lot of burst, front-end damage. And because it's essentially skill shot based, I like that Arizona put together a lineup. You got Shogath, Jax, Varus, Alistar to be up with this Talia. All of those other 4 champions have immobilizing spells. Not just crowd control, like a slow or something like that, but immobilizing. You are stuck in a spot. Definitely Talia, if she's prepared for it, can follow that up and knock you where she chooses.
Right.
Deal her damage how she pleases. And this kind of composition, a lot of tools that can have that kind of synergy to bring them to the next level where they would otherwise be weak.
Right. And that it's interesting you bring that up, because there's almost as much on the side of Washington State, because you have the Xerath stun, you have the concussive blows from Braum, you have the taunt from Shen, and then Tristana doesn't have one, but then you have Zac. Just the knock-up from the Elastic Slingshot, the possible stun from the stretching strike, and then the Let's Bounce. It's all over. I think that's more the name of the game than anything. You know, we talk about roams, we talk about engage, we talk about crowd control. Crowd control has to be, I think, the #1 thing you need to draft.
Yeah, and both these teams definitely have it. I think the damage threat is a lot more widespread for Arizona than it is for Washington, because As you'll see now, on to Summoner's Rift. Checking these compositions, there's 2 damage threats, precisely 2, and no more. This is an invade.
Oh, and the Q does land flash for the taunt, and that is going to be a dead Xerath. First blood going over to Mistro on the Tristana.
Faster than you can say ready, set, go. Nice flash taunt there from Drubin. That shows you he's ready to be aggressive on an otherwise just solid tank champion, and they get first blood right on to Tristana. I like this. It's going to do a lot for them to scale their composition into the mid and late, which is where they need their composition to be. It's where it shines most. I just was about to talk about how there's 2 damage threats and no more or less here for WSU. And if Washington wants to do well in this match, they're going to have to focus their efforts on getting Xerath and Tristana, specifically Tristana, ahead. She's going to be the answer here. She has her own repositioning tool, which means she's the one who can deal with the possibility of Jax being a problem, of Cho'Gath being massive. Unless Tristana has items, then those others are extremely scary. There's only so much that they can do to contribute if Tristana is able to melt down that front line. So I like the first blood invade. Really well played. Definitely worth a Shen flash, and especially because they have full vision of the red side start here. Shen can play smartly safe in the first few levels until his flash comes back up, because he knows where Jax started and he knows where Jax isn't going to be, especially because Jax just walked through mid lane.
Right, and I was going to commend Arizona for that start. That would have been beautiful. Shen has his taunt first. That is a horrible laning phase spell to start with, and then you know, he doesn't have a flash. He only has the taunt. That means if he gets even slightly out of position, Cho'Gath and Jax, especially with that red buff, can punish it immensely. Unfortunate, though, that Washington State spotted it out, got a nice ward there. Good thinking, too, seeing that play coming.
Yeah, and that's going to mean that Zach here is going to get 3 buffed. There's really no way around it at this point. And if he's going to try and answer, he's likely to get caught out. Surprisingly, Talia is doing a really good job shoving in the Xerath,
yeah, that was a little weird.
Is going to be at the disadvantage at just the level 1, but should be able to answer at level 2. These trades in the bottom lane give me a pretty good idea as to how this lane will play out, because Tristana isn't going to have that early damage, and if she takes Rocket Jump at level 2, then her ability to trade is much lower than the combos available from...
I think she had Rocket Jump level 1. Didn't she use it to jump away after they got first blood?
Indeed, yeah. She used it to show up and to jump away. So that means now she's at level 3. She's got a point in each. Now she has the kind of trading potential. But with Rocket Jump as one of your first 2 spells, you're not going to be able to trade as effectively as pretty much any other 2v2. Brahm's really strong here, and he should be able to block a lot of the damage from Varus. But with those earlier trades, you can see Mistra just taking some auto attacks in these free trades. That's not good. Not just because you don't want to take free trades, but because Tristana right here is more important to WSU's comp than Varus is to Arizona. That's not to say they don't need Varus to be useful.
No.
It's just that if you only have 2 damage threats instead of up to 4, honestly, for Arizona, you need to make sure that you have this here. But the good sneak here from Zach. This could be a good gank.
That was a 3-person jump to get in there. Alistar is stunned 3 times. ADC Win is trying to get in there and deal some damage. Unbreakable up, stopping some auto attacks. Not, it burns the flash, but there's a leap strike. We need Jax going up and punishing the Shen. Still no flash, and somehow Meteor's getting the solo kill against Filthy Hippie in the mid lane.
Yeah, the flash was still on cooldown from Shen, and we'll get a replay as to how that happened, I hope. For the top lane, Shen, without flash, you can't push up very far, otherwise you're susceptible to precisely that kind of gank. So down here in the bottom lane, you get a decent gank off. Tristana gets pretty low, so they can't dive the turret, and they get the flash and the heal and exhaust, heal and flash out of both of these bottom laners here for Arizona, so a decent trade overall for just Ignite, but solo laners end up getting kills. So let's look at that top lane one more time.
So it looks, a beautiful counter strike, dodging out the Rupture. He's probably going to use the dashing strike, to get that far. God the King jumps in with his own flash and the leap strike. Surviving, I want to say, because of the little bit of hit points you get back from that red buff, just able to take 1 or 2 extra hits before jumping in and picking that one up.
Yeah, there's just so much damage that can come through with press the attack on Jax here. Gets that nice knock up in the
Ooh.
mid lane.
And I never knew what those little rocks on the ground did. It's if someone dashes or is airborne in any way over them, they ignite. And that's how you deal the damage. And
Yeah.
so I never quite got it, but instead what Meteors did is knew that seismic shove was going to land and then threw the pebbles on the ground so that there was no way he was going to miss all of that damage on there. Really well done there from Meteors.
Yeah, showcasing his skill on that champion already with a solo kill for himself, getting close to doubling CS. I mean, he's not that close, but he's putting a significant advantage into his pockets. And once that translates into the first couple of core items, like I said, are necessary for Taliyah to become a massive damage threat, then she's actually one of those champions that snowballs very easily because of her map mobility, because of her ability to wave clear just about as well as a Xerath can. Then you can see her showing up where you wouldn't like to see her if you're on this other team.
Right. And that was a minion dematerializer we saw used in the mid lane from Xerath. That is all 5, and he's still the 13... what? Oh, I guess that was Taliyah's. No, but it killed a blue minion, I thought.
If there was
Anyway.
one for Xerath, then he's used it all there, and it looks like there's dematerializer, for Meteors as well.
And there was another skirmish, just like we were talking about. Alistar putting so much pressure. He is so beefy, so good at trying to set up these fights. If Braum weren't the pick on the other side, that Unbreakable, saving Mistro's life. There's no other way that Mistro survives in this situation, I don't think.
Yeah, we've already seen that he does not take these trades favorably, even in a 3v2 situation. You can see him getting hit by these skill shots. He hasn't died, so you can't say, oh, he's doing everything wrong, because he's keeping up relatively close in farm. You can see he's down by a bit, but you can see that the minions are also stacking towards him, so he's going to get the majority of these. And he's got his summoner spells, so he's not doing anything terribly wrong. And so you can't really say that there's much to worry about at this point, but if he gets as low as he is in favorable situations, like a 3v2 situation, if that same kind of positioning happens in team fights in 5v5, you can imagine that a Jax, a Taliyah, and the like will definitely cause more problems.
So there it is right there. Alistar goes in, gets all of the damage, including the E with the trample stun, but Unbreakable is there. Oh, they know that there is no flash. Flash forward from Mistro, and now Mr. Svex is all alone in 1v3. Meteors is there, but they decide they are too strong. Oh, and now the teleport. No, sorry. Shen's ultimate there, going to get the taunt onto Taliyah. God the King is there, dodging out the ult from Braum. Now Meteors is going to go down. Jax is the only one left other than the Cho'Gath, but there is no way he's going to be able to join the fight. Advantage Washington State after that one.
Yeah, with all of the pressure that Jax had put top lane, bottom lane had kind of been left open for Zach to do whatever he wants with Vision. And despite having wards in a couple of places, they took that aggressive trade in bottom lane. Arizona kind of gets baited in, and Zach ends up being the one who shows up to turn the tide. You saw Mistro had to flash and heal away almost instantly, and when that became the case, then if Zach shows up, and Varus is already hard committed to that fight, his flash now just coming off cooldown, you can bet your bottom dollar essentially that he's the one that falls first. He is, then Alistar shortly thereafter, and because they thought they would have bonus members with Jax and Taliyah showing up before Xerath, they forgot about the key Shen ult. Xerath tries to show up, he starts ulting, or rather gets ready to ult, he makes it in range, and then Jax turns on him in the river. Shen shows up essentially out of nowhere because that's what he's designed to do, and things get turned. Always a numbers advantage here for WSU, despite what looks to be winning fights in favor of Arizona right off the bat.
And that's why we said we like the Shen pick. It kind of matches that ability to roam, but from a much further or farther distance. And, you know, you also have the teleport, so you're never really losing anything. But let's take another look here at that team fight, because Zach is going to jump in with that elastic slingshot and get all of the damage.
Yeah, there was the heal, and then the flash to try and get that kill secured. Alistar's just about to fall here, the last auto attack, and then you can see Xerath shows up, but right as Jax goes in, the flash away to make some distance. There's going to be the Shen coming in. He gets a nice taunt, puts down the field to block auto attacks, and then nice flash from Meteors to dodge out, but he's just dead to rights, honestly. He's got nowhere to go at all. Already using the ultimate to show up and then flash to dodge one skill shot isn't going to save your life when you're surrounded by 4 members. But well played by both teams. Arizona took fights they thought they could win, forced some summoner spells where not for those summoner spells, there'd be no opportunity for more members to turn things around. But a fight in the bottom lane already.
And now Tristana is the first one to go. Zach gets a nice let's bounce, but he didn't bounce them anywhere. Power Kook is going to be the next. They popped his passive in the last fight. He's going to get the stretching strike there. Alistar jumps in and gets the nice knock-up. It is now a 1v3, and that's... Oh, Braum is still alive. Flash forward from ADC win. And turned right back around. 5-4 now and kills. Oh, but he needs to be careful. He gets hit by the filthy hippie and goes down a 3-for-1 trade there. But it looks like Drubin might want some of the Anguished one.
Yeah, nice snipe in the bottom lane by the Xerath. And this is just going to be a simple solo kill. Oh, my goodness,
he does get the flash, and he survives.
Dang, nice play there by Anguished one. I'm not sure why you'd want to turn around. Hopefully Talia can get this on her own.
The flash burned now from Drubin. His ult is back up, but won't save him in the lane. I think maybe he might be checking around the map or something to see what else he could do, except he jumps in with a taunt. He gets silenced. Rupture does not land, but now Power Kook is there. Zach ready to go in, gets the stretching strike, gets the stun, and the unstable matter. Picks up the kill himself.
You know, we've heard this time and again where if you lose your summoner spell in a gank and you don't have over half your health, it's generally a bad idea regardless of if your enemy laner is slow to stick around at all. You have your teleport if you have to, if you feel the need to show back up to get the extra farm. But generally speaking, if you're losing a 1v1 especially, if Shen has pressure on you in a 1v1, don't stick around if you already had to lose your flash. And you just go in range to get taunted, you're already going to lose that little trade there as nice happy feet movement there from Drubin. He dodges some of those spells. And then Zach, if Zach can walk in without an elastic slingshot, he doesn't even have to use that gap close, you know your positioning was rather poor. So a misplay for sure there by Cho'Gath. But more fights in the bottom lane.
This bottom lane is super aggressive. There's the rocket jump forward. The summoner heal burned. Mr. Sphex does get ult down. ADC gets his ult down. Cho'Gath is there. He used the the teleport ult from Shen is there. It is now a 1v3. ADC is throwing down tons of damage, and that's going to be the kill onto Tristana. Knock back and then a knock up. Drubin goes down. Triple kill for Cho'Gath. Not what you want to see after he is already losing his top lane matchup.
Yeah, I mean, that's some really nice macro play there from Anguished One. I was just criticizing him for his 1v1 play, but making the perfect macro play. You know, you can't play perfectly all the time. Even Faker make mistakes. And so I like that he shakes it off, doesn't allow himself to get tilted, and decides, you know what, shake it off, make the right decisions nonetheless. And you know what, speaking of which, it's funny that he's playing Cho'Gath here, and I'm talking about him making the right choices and avoiding tilt, because on his player survey for PACG, he actually said that it's important when you're playing League of Legends to always be cognizant of what untilts you, like whether that means taking a break, playing a different game. He said for him, it's food. So I like that. Yeah, so he's feasting on players here with a nice teleport play. It seems that would untilt anyone, getting a triple kill for yourself after falling to someone in a 1v1. So he's definitely untilted by that play. Gets a nice feast. The food's going to untilt him. Yeah, I mean, nice awesome. Cho'Gath play.
That was a really good way to look at that one. And you know what? It wasn't just a great play. It wasn't just a way to get him back in the game and untilt. It netted them the first 2 towers on the map. Arizona now 2 turrets to 0. They get the bonus gold from first turret. They get the one on bottom as well that has the extra resistances. Now they can put their bot lane in the mid, get that third outer, and just start roaming everywhere.
Yeah, despite Tristana normally being the one you'd look to take the early turrets, this focus here from towards the bottom lane for Arizona has been deceptively strong. Because you'd think, well, Zach's been there nonstop, right? But using the globals, the Talia wall, and the teleport here from Cho'Gath, using those to create the pressure in the bottom lane has been creating, honestly, the majority of the success here for Arizona. Talia using her flash to kind of avoid the gank mid. Nice choice. It's good to avoid dying when you get caught like that, but I'd like to see the the advantages here, you talked about a 2-turret lead and, of course, the global gold that comes with it. I'd like to see that being translated into more vision for Arizona so there's less of that getting caught out in the river action happening.
And now it does look like they have set it up. They have several wards here. You got one in that tri-brush, a couple around the Drake, and there's the nice wall to get everybody away. Power Kook gets knocked away. The Glacial Fisher goes in goes Shen as well. A perfect counter-strike to stun 3. The Chains of Corruption go out to stop all of WSU, but now Jax is all alone. A lot of damage onto Drubin. ADC win needs to be careful. There's a knock-up onto Boodles. He goes down to the Varus, and now Power Kook is in right there. Let's Bounce gets Varus right into the thick of things, but here comes Cho'Gath. He's going to get the silence down. He wants to get onto Tristana because she is squishy. He is taking a lot of punishment here. Everyone is going in so much so far. There's a good rupture. Flash away from Mistro, and the Anguish one does go down. A stopwatch used by Power Kook, and now Mr. Specs is all alone, gets stunned, and a double kill over for Mistro. Everyone died. That's an ace.
Yeah, it's an ace here for WSU. They don't get the dragon off of a nice play by Mr. Specs to interrupt the elastic slingshot from Power Kook as the dragon was being taken. But unfortunately, that means your main front line, because Cho'Gath's teleport was down, your main front line, other than Jax, who hasn't had the time to build a lot of tank items, your main front line in the Alistar is separated from the fight. He has to walk all the way around through Tri-Brush after interrupting Zac. That means there's no possible way for you to take that fight if you're Arizona. You got the dragon, yes, and it's an Infernal. It's a smart one to take, and it's a smart one to make sure that you secure. But if you can't take the fight afterwards, avoid it at all costs. Sacrifice a member if you have to. So let's take a look at that next fight, and I'm going to talk about how, look, you can see this is right after Specs got over. The wall is in place to create the distance, but now Jax goes back in. I disagree with that. In Chains of Corruption, like, you can play aggro, but you can't. You're getting wailed on by the range from the Xerath, and Tristana's still just auto-attacking from the backline. She's protected by her support, but your support isn't there until now, when Xerath's able to AoE everyone, Zac's able to re-engage time and again, with Tristana still remaining relatively healthy throughout this entire team fight, repositioning as she pleases, and one at a time, Arizona members are going to fall. There's not much you can do when you're just at a numbers disadvantage from the beginning. By design, really. It was Alistar creating the distance, saying, no, Zac, you don't get to join this fight at the front end because we want to secure Dragon. But if that's your game plan, then commit to it. So I would have liked to have seen them back off immediately after the Dragon. The Weaver's Wall was still there for another second and a half, maybe.
Well, you could deactivate that, right?
You can, but it's their wall. It creates the space that they want. And so they want to leave that up and just, retreat to the bottom lane and be safe. You don't need to take that fight.
Ooh, Ultimate coming down, wanting to win. Last shot does not hit.
Heal and Locket were used because of the accuracy there by Filthy Hippo. That was so good.
Ooh, and now the Weaver's Wall does go up, knocks Braum away from the rest of his team, and he will go down. He flashes and has the Shen ultimate. Shadow Dash with the flash goes in. Mistro jumps in as well. So much damage, so many jumps. In comes Power Kook. He's going to get the kill with Meteors. Mistro picks that one up, and man, Washington State just getting all of the kills in all of the fights.
Yeah, their team fight is going a lot better. They don't have the stronger lanes, and we saw that coming through during laning phase, but laning phase is well over at this point.
Now, I think that Power Kook went in a little too much. Drubin now is the front line. Mr. Specs is going to take a lot of damage, but is going to make it out. That was 2 for 0 at that point. There's a knock up and a knock away. Counter-Strike goes in. Third shot does kill Mistro. These guys are just fighting all over the place for the sake of fighting. The Anguish one now needs to fight a 1v2 underneath the turret. And he backs off. They take the turret. Drubin taking the last hit on that.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Fighting just for the sake of fighting, where it's not a good idea to just take those fights if you're not sure that you can. And so it kind of showcased at the end there with Jax going in. Yes, he trades 1-for-1 on Tristana, but that was kind of a chase, a really long chase that you didn't really need to do. So let's get a second look at kind of the lengthy fight that happened here. It started in the mid lane.
Oh, man, that flash with the Shen ult was beautiful. And then the flash taunt, Mistro jumps in. Meteors is the one caught out of position there, getting hit with the Xerath stun. And then Power Kook hasn't missed a slingshot yet, I don't think. Just landing all of them.
And at this point, you just want to back off. You don't want to take a further fight, but then canceled recalls, turning in, and you're going to lose this turret no matter what. You can't take this fight. And then, yes, this is kind of insane for PowerCook to go in because he's going to give his life, but then back off right now. Even if it's just a 1-for-1, then you got a 1-for-1 when you're behind, and that's normally in favor of the team that is behind. But why do you chase here? God the King, you have 200 health. What are you thinking? Mr. Specs has 200 health. Why are you going in? Yes, you get the heal, and you still kill Tristana, but you just lost 2 people for 1. It's not worth it.
No, I agree with you. I think that should have been disengaged a long time ago. Or Mr. Specs landing the Q with the EQ combo maybe might have been able to save that. But instead he just knocks Tristana completely away, and the disengage is lost. It's chaos at that point, just fighting people to fight people. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is despite losing those couple of fights, Arizona is still ahead in gold. They maintain that 1,000 ahead. They have the better combat stat in the Infernal Drake. And so I think that fighting is not the best option, but it's a wise one when you know you've got the lead you have, looking at your items, and also knowing you have that extra % damage.
So now, with the Dragon just spawning, I want to see a better version of what happened before happen now for Arizona. You mentioned they have a gold lead and that they can take certain fights. The certain fights they can take are the ones that are on their terms. They tried their best to clear out vision. You just saw that these 2 wards are fresh. Those were just barely placed by WSU because Arizona had just cleared out vision. Got the King kind of in an interesting spot here, but the fight's going to be happening. Tristana's separated from the fight, but down here is Chaos.
And now Jax is going to be able to join with Mistro there. Jax is in the fight. He's going to get the counter-strike onto 2. Shen ult is down. Varus takes the first blood of that fight. A nice knock up there to get the Xerath shut down. Gold for the Anguished One, doing really well. Shen is the next target. He is going to die here. Ooh. And Varus is cleaning up this fight, doing everything he's meant to do as an AD carry, making them win.
Nice play, and nice word play indeed, Ben. It looks like they might be looking for the Baron here. It's a little crazy, I think, with pretty low health bar. Okay, so they got the teleport coming in. He'll tank everything up.
Yeah.
But when we look at that fight, I want to get a replay of what just happened in the river. This was precisely what you're mentioning, Ben, where they're up in gold, and they should be able to take some fights, but it has to be the right fights, and most of those right fights means separating Tristana, so I like God's play here. Jax, he's going to flank around the left side and cut off Tristana, but then down here, you can see the engage on PowerCook is going to get flashed away by ADC Win here, and he's going to start just DPSing down the fight. He gets the last hit on the Bloblets pop out, Alistar's able to disappear, and then Baram is alone on that left side, and then they just get to mow down the Bloblets. There's going to be Xerath just following to the AoE, essentially.
The feast.
Yes, the feast is just available still. I mean, they don't even have to use it at that point. And so being able to clean up this fight means your Xerath is now at the level of power, essentially, as Tristana. Oh, we get right back to the fight. This game is just bloody.
And that is another Drake in for the side of WSU. Meteors picks up the kill onto Braum, and now ADC Win is throwing out all of the damage. He gets the ultimate onto Mistro and the kill, and it looks like Zach does make it out. He is on the bot side, got to jump over that wall, but another fight in the favor of Arizona, especially with that Baron buff, key.
Yeah, and so they do have Baron still on 4 members. They're going to have to use that to break the base. They don't really have great group potential, despite what we saw in that river fight. They're built to split, have like a 1-3-1, or set up picks in the jungle and then mow you down with their aggressive composition that's built to chase you, right? That's what the Jax does best. But if you're going to do a 1-3-1, one thing you have to have set up is to make sure that you don't get caught. I like the flash here. Hopefully you survive. He's got enough health.
One more.
Blast
PowerCook
plant?
wants to get it. Yeah, he's going to get out with the Blast Plant. Well played, but I think it was a little too much at that point. You have the Baron buff. You don't need to go fight the guy. Just take the turret.
Yeah. You have your flash available, and generally speaking, you'd say flash for a tier 2 top is actually worth it overall, but if you don't have to use your flash, you'd rather not. And so he could have just played a little bit safer and slower, pushed up that bottom lane while his team had full-on pressure in the top lane. Let's see them regroup. They still got some time left on this Baron, about a minute or so left. I want to see them pressuring another tier 2, likely that bottom lane, and hopefully then they can regroup, reset, double-check those item break points and see if they're capable of taking 5v5s, and if they do, force them. You've got an Alistar.
For sure. And something else I want to talk about right now is vision. Priorities for vision. Look at that. The Arizona has all of their stuff up in the top side of the map, and then the Cougars from Washington State have them in the bot side. That's what allowed them to pick up that Drake. They saw everything on the bot side of the map right there in that corner, and that's also probably what netted the kill on the turret up in the top side for Arizona. Just keeping control of the spots that are important to you.
Yeah, and what Arizona will have to do is clear out this vision as they move their pressure to the bottom side, and that's what you see them doing. They don't have enough sweepers yet, but what they've been able to do is at least place their own vision to know that they're safe to kind of siege this turret. And I say kind of siege because with the Baron, it becomes easy, but as soon as this Baron wears off in just a few seconds, it's going to be extremely difficult. Varus isn't the longest of range, and no one else here really helps to attack the turrets. It's not like you have a Ziggs or anything like that. So it's difficult to siege these turrets. As Baron buff you see there on the Cho'Gath and the rest of his team, really. It's now worn off. We're going to see what Arizona decides they want to do now that they don't have the Baron. They've won a couple team fights, but some have gone back and forth. It is a 12,000 gold lead, but that doesn't mean you can just win these fights. There's a decent composition from both these. We've seen the Shen turn things around. I'm excited to see how this next fight goes because it might spell either disaster for Arizona or the end of the game for WSU.
And here it comes. That's the knockup and the stuns and the ult onto the Xerath. Xerath is going to get the Shen ult, but he will go down. Let's Bounce takes 2 out of the fight. God the King and his teammates are there, and that's another kill. ADC win is unstoppable, and now you've got your 2 tanks just hanging out inside the base. Boodles is going to get the stun onto the Anguished one, but it doesn't matter. Arizona are going to take the mid turret, and they're going to take the mid inhibitor. Perfect setup there from the tanks and crowd controllers from the Wildcats.
Yeah, that really was the Alistar. Like I said, once you decide that you want to take a fight, force it, and Alistar's the best to do that. Nice double knockup.
This Counter-Strike does not land the stun onto Mistro, and now the Anguished one is getting dangerously low. He does throw down another Q, and everyone else is dead. Mistro takes the last hit from the threaded volley. Meteors is alive, and they are going to take down the Nexus, trying to get Filthy Hippie. They do get the snipe. Now Bloblets are out. One more kill for the Arizona Wildcats, and that's the end of game number 1. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, I mean, nice play there. You're going to see that victory screen come out, and I love the zoom-out capability we now have.
Beautiful.
You can see 15,000 gold lead to end things out. It's pretty convincing. I have to say, pretty good play from both of these teams.
Yeah.
It's really close. Despite it being 15,000 at the end, that's a big number, and especially in like competitive play, you think 15,000, somebody got crushed.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was kind of sloppy from Arizona. I would say their biggest problem is tunnel vision.
Yes.
Is what it looked like to me. And it's kind of hard. I don't want to pressure it too much as a point because they are like mostly melee champions that I saw that from. And it's hard to not tunnel if you're melee because you have to either be right on top of someone or try to be if you want to fight at all. And so it's kind of hard to tell what's tunnel vision and what's just trying to be a melee champion. But honestly, it was a little worrisome. We had some replays that we talked about where like Jax and Cho'Gath and Alistar were kind of just playing a little bit too far forward, especially like on re-engages that didn't seem really necessary or even like sure things. And so that will be a worry for me going into game 2 if you're an Arizona fan. And for Washington, you shouldn't be too worried.
No.
They looked pretty strong. Their laning phase was stellar.
It was
Their
amazing.
jungle pressure, honestly, the Zac play was so good. I would love to see that pick come through again. You mentioned he was like never missing his skill shots, and that's really important. Forcing flashes, that gives you so much pressure. So laning phase is really good from Washington. Arizona kind of playing sloppily, but they did pretty well, right? They landed their skill shots too. I liked the Talia play. It's kind of sleeper, but she did a lot of damage, I'm sure, in that match.
Oh, yeah, just throwing out those threaded volleys there. What I wanted to see was someone picking up the helm that reduces damage from the same spell over and over
Adaptive
again.
helm?
That's the one, the adaptive one.
Yeah.
No one grabbed it from what I saw.
It's an expensive item, and I can't see it helping against anyone other than Talia.
Kind of Varus, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna
stop some
it's gonna stop some of his blight on hit damage, but it doesn't actually stop any of his execute.
Yeah, but you hit exactly what I wanted to talk about. The laning phase for Washington State was amazing. They need to clean up a little bit on their team fight, because that's where they started losing their advantage. In the lane, they got it, but what lost them their lanes? When they lost the fight, they lost the Baron, and they lost 2 turrets all within a couple minutes of each other.
It ended up mostly being, if you're winning your 5v5 situations, generally speaking, which was WSU, when they were losing team fights, it was people showing up late and then just like kind of snowballing, getting like zoned out. But the Shen play was fantastic.
It was.
The Zac
was very good.
Fights were like fantastic. He was getting the perfect engages. Shen was showing up precisely when he needed to, precisely when he means to. It's almost a wizard at that point. But that's what I want to see more of. It just ended up being a little bit too late or in the slightly wrong position and just more damage, essentially. I think that was the biggest key, is that there was just more damage potential and more damage threats on Arizona's side that, like, a Jax can kill someone, so can a Cho'Gath with true damage.
Yeah, it's that bite
and then, of course, you have Talia and Varus, who are definitely capable of putting out their damage. But if you just have the Xerath and the Tristana, if either one of them gets deleted or separated from the fight, like we saw that river fight where Tristana's like a screen and a half away from the rest of the fight, you're probably losing that fight overall.
Yeah,
so
precisely.
I'd like to see a little bit more of an aggressive either support pick, because you have the engage potential from a Zac and follow-up from a Shen. And so you translate maybe either shield heal to keep someone alive in the middle of a mix. Like if you had a Janna or a Karma, you get to reset those fights pretty well and keep Tristana in range even if she's under threat. Or you can have a damage support, like a Brand or something, to contribute a little bit more. Or you just swap it up and change out your draft entirely, but still play to the strengths that we saw from just their playstyle, which is positioning and laning phase. They did pretty well.
They did really well. And I think those exact adaptations need to come out here. They had really good meta style bans, but we don't know if these were also targeted. You know, it was Azir, it was Ryze, it was Gnar and Sejuani. Those are strong no matter what, but are they necessary to ban?
Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see how they adapt their draft coming forward, because they'll have about as much information as we've had. Be able to look them up some solo queue is one thing, and then how much competitive history can you look at these? Some of them do compete in ULOL, and you can kind of look there. But generally speaking, people are going to stick to the meta, so you're going to ban meta champions. So we'll have to see how they adapt the draft. Coming into Game 2, we'll be right back after a short break. The Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers returns after this.
Oh.
I apologize. We were talking about the game so much that the game is already ready to get underway, so we're not going to go to break, which I'm totally fine with.
I'm fine with it, too. This is
we're
good
going to hop right into Champion Select for you guys to join us for now Game 2 between Washington State University and Arizona. Let's see how the draft changes.
I want to see Zac somewhere in here. Washington State used it so effectively. I think it should scare Arizona a little bit. They banned Sejuani last time, but maybe they need to ban the Zac instead. I think that it was a little bit more effective. And just the champion itself, Zac, you know, you can be a little bit more reckless because of your passive when you have it up. But somewhere in this game, I want to see Zac again, because I think he's really strong, and I think it is a really, in fact, a great pick for Washington State in general.
It looks like more of the same draft coming through. I don't see any adaptations yet, but it might not be necessary. The team compositions weren't bad in either direction.
No.
It was just how do you play to your strengths. So we do see this first 2 bans from either side. The third ban's going to come through shortly. I imagine you still ban either, as you said, either Zac or Sejuani. There's the Sejuani. So if it's going to be the Sejuani ban, I imagine if you're Washington State, are you going to prioritize Zac as a first pick if it doesn't get banned as the third and final ban here from Arizona?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, there's no reason. It did great. We were talking about it. The Zac was consistently the right thing. Ooh, but instead it looks like they're going to steal away the Alistar. Another really good one to take first. Alistar, very, very strong. I think a little bit more powerful than Braum in terms of aggression and engage. So I like that pickup.
So they do steal that away, of course, from Arizona. It was their pick from last match, which I imagine leaves Zach, Jarvan, Jax, if it's still in the mix, on the table for jungle, since with these prioritization on at least a couple jungle bans, you want to see the junglers being picked in the first rotation. Tristana now taken. That's going to be a steal away. It looks like they're just mirroring their compositions as they do steal away the Zach as well. So now it's going to be Tristana and Zach going over. This is going to be Tristana being stolen away from Washington.
Yeah.
Same is true for Zach. And
It's
then the opposite for Alistar being stolen away. There comes the Jarvan. So they're trying to stick with similar play style, I want to say, where you keep things locked down in a small area and you fight around it. And if you can do that, then having a hyper carry, which now can't be the Tristana if you're Washington State, will do work. And you can keep her, I say her because it was Tristana, but you can keep an 80 carry safer, a hyper carry safer for Washington State if you have Cataclysm and essentially AoE control from, you've got Cataclysm now, you've got Shockwave, and you've got Alistar to be a ball delivery if you don't use Jarvan for it. So pretty good AoE control here from Washington State, but I gotta say, Arizona still looking like they have the damage once again.
Oh, definitely. You and I heard a coach from a university team say word for word, Azir is the strongest mid laner. You weren't here, but I heard him say those exact words. It was right after we watched the University of Utah playing against Washington, and they kept banning Azir, and we were talking about why would you do that. It turns out it was a Washington mid lane pick.
Was it UW or Wazoo?
I think it was UW.
Okay.
But anyway, he said flat out, Azir is the strongest mid laner. And so if you're not going to pick him, you got to ban him. And so right here, Arizona picking it up, I think it'll be a really good champion for Meteors. He had such good control and such good positioning with the Talia. I can only imagine that those Sand Soldiers are going to be really, really strong coming out for the mid lane in Arizona.
Yeah, and the last time in a PACG match that somebody picked Jarvan, I mentioned how Jarvan, as strong as he is, can also be a liability if his ultimate is used improperly. Even when you think it's being used properly, it might cause some drama for your team fight. If you lock people down who are on your team by trying to peel, perhaps, then you can be keeping people in a small space for Azir to do work. As you just mentioned, his Sand Soldiers can just do so much damage. And it looks like the bird's the word for damage out of Arizona, since he'll probably have general advantage here in terms of the team fight potential, because he has a little bit more ability to reposition and reset and separate the fights out if he uses his ultimate properly to chase people down. So if Washington State's idea here for team fighting is to lock people into one specific location, the Azir pick and using the Shurima Shuffle is like the perfect answer, I would say.
Another perfect answer here. I like the pinch from Arizona on the 80 carry position. They already took Varus away, one of the top, and then they take two other high priority targets here, Ezreal and Xayah, leaving only the Vayne really as a, I mean, you could have picked Caitlyn or Sivir. We've seen them be pretty popular. But instead, Washington State decides to go with the Vayne pick. It got to be more of a comfort thing than just a straight up good pick, or does it do well into Tristana?
Nobody really does amazingly into Tristana in just like a 1v1 situation. She's a really strong duelist. Vayne is one of the better champions in just the 1v1, but you can't really talk too much about 1v1s because it is a 2v2 lane.
Right.
I'm going to say, shout out here to Creepcrow in the Twitch chat for calling out this Janna pick before it even came through on stream. I'd even say that this is one of the smarter picks as well, because not only does it counter the Alistar in lane, but it counters, once again, the all-in AoE lockdown potential team fight that Washington State has been drafting here, that if they can lock you down in a Cataclysm, get the Hemoplague on top of it, Shock Blast, the Command Shock Wave to boot, all in the same area, you bet they're 100 to 0ing multiple members of Arizona. But the Janna and the Azir, great choices for saying no to that kind of team fight happening.
I like it. And I was listening to The Dive a couple weeks ago, and 2 out of the 3 hosts there said that Janna is #1 on their tier list of supports.
Yeah,
Just,
they probably said it with a grimace too.
Yes,
most
actually
analysts
they did.
Hate Janna.
Kobe in particular said He wasn't even a grimace. You could just hear it in his voice. He was putting his arms up in fists and just really, really aggravating when he was saying it out loud.
I still remember there's a YouTube video out there that I love to reference where it's called How to Win Every Game of League of Legends.
Oh, I love
and it's
it.
from literally like beta. If you watch it, you'll see the graphics, like the literally screen capture is from like beta play. And it's about how Janna can just become a busted support champion.
Yeah.
Even on her own, she just has so many tools to fight people. I love playing Janna. She's one of my most played. I'm a dirty Janna player, right? And she actually has a lot more versatile kit than people realize. And you actually, I think that Janna has a very, very high skill floor, but an even higher skill ceiling. And what I mean by that is it's very easy, and people will tell you this over and over again. You'll see it on Reddit threads galore that it's like, Janna's just so easy. All you do is press E. And to some degree, there's some truth to that, where she's a very easy champion to know what you kind of should be doing is knock people away with Q, use your E. But people don't really understand the W, and a lot of people misuse the ult. And those are like some of the best parts of her kit. Yes, the E is kind of one-dimensional, and it's easy to use. But how do you use the W? How do you want to use the W? And how do you use your ultimate to make sure you're not ruining fights and that you're actually doing precisely what you need to when you need to? So Janna play, actually, I love to watch because it can be a lot more intricate than people give it credit for. But at the same time, extremely frustrating to play.
Oh, it is. It is amazing how hard it is to fight it. I know that we're focusing a lot on the Janna, but just like you said, that Zephyr, that W, it's a slow. It's a huge slow. And it's so annoying.
Yeah.
Because first you're knocked up after you get hit with the Q. You're giving AD with your shield, right? All of your ability power and the shield grants attack damage to your carry, and then on top of that, you're slowed. That's not okay.
I mean, we talked about how you can't really say much about 1v1s between AD carries, but interestingly, as a support player, I love to talk about kind of 1v1s between supports, because you kind of just do get to fight each other in the brushes and be like, no, I want to kill the ward. No, you want to kill the ward. No, I want to protect my AD carry and harass your AD carry, and it's kind of just like the supports play bottom lane while the AD carries farm. What else is new with bottom lane?
Right.
But with Janna into Alistar, it's actually so disgustingly in Janna's favor, because she can completely nullify Alistar's engage, whether onto her or onto her AD carry, if you use Howling Gale properly. But then, as you mentioned with the W, its base damage is actually really, really high. It slows for a ton, which makes a melee really, really sad. And then because they added the on-hit magic damage with the recent changes to Janna, then you just shield yourself to take no damage from minions, and even if the AD carry thinks, okay, I'll give you an auto back to try and dissuade you, you're like, what auto? Because I already have a shield.
I got that
and then
shield.
you're having not only bonus AD, but the bonus on-hit damage from your passive, and you're just like wailing on and getting Spell Thief procs, and you're like, back off, Cal, this is my lane. And it's actually hilarious, because you're essentially just winning the lane for free, because then Alistar, a champion meant to engage, is at like 30% health for the entirety of laning phase, and miserable about it.
That would be miserable. Another matchup I do want to talk about is the switch here for the junglers.
Yeah.
The J4 on Washington State and the Zac on Arizona. Will we see as crisp of Zac play from Arizona? Just from what we saw, was it God of the King?
Oh, he was on Jax.
Yeah, he was on Jax. Are we going to see as crisp of Zac play from God the King? Or...
It's possible. Honestly, I wouldn't even expect the exact same crisp level of play from Power, because even though Power Crew played Zac really, really well, even the best players are going to have one-offs, right? Where they're going to play super, super well and then not do as well in the next game. So I don't want to put Zac as a champion on a pedestal and expect great things just from the champion, and regardless of who's playing him. But God the King played aggressively, and I think that tells you he's not afraid of taking engages, which tells me he's the type of player that's comfortable playing someone like Zac, and so I do expect him to play relatively well.
And I do have to say, Filthy Hippie is now my favorite player in this match, flashing that TSM icon from 2017 Worlds. Woo! But other things to think about here, I love Jarvan as a jungle champion. I think that he is super strong. He's got really long range engage if you can land the EQR combo. It's a lot of fun to do that, but I don't know if it was Sejuani was the banned. So yeah, Jarvan was the best pick. I want to see if he goes for the Raptors. We've had the chance to talk about that.
Don't, right?
Yeah, right. Don't hit your Raptors. You got 4 armor taken off of you. Get your single buff. Move up to the other side of the jungle. Just don't do it. Nope, he's going.
We might be looking for a level 2 gank.
Yeah, with
this
the
is
red
the type
buff.
of thing I like to see. Red buff into level 2 for mid lane.
Here we
Azir
go.
is pushed up a little bit.
We're going to have to see. Oh,
That's going to be the flash. We didn't get it right on your screen, but you can see the summoner spell down, and if you watch the minimap, that's right when it happened. For mid lane, Azir flash already down, only 2 minutes in, and on top of that, that's going to be the invade, at least a ward put down. Jarvan's not. I would have liked to have seen him be a little bit more aggressive. He's got more health than the Zac, and Orianna definitely is going to have the
faster roam.
The faster roam plus the pressure of having flash down from meteors. So I would have liked to see contest on the red, but there's nothing wrong with backing off here.
And you and I talked either this stream or the stream before about what a successful gank actually means. Getting a kill is not the only criteria for having a successful gank. Burning a flash is immensely useful and very, very, what was the word I was just using? Effective. Very effective as a gank. If you get the flash out or a summoner heal or a barrier, that means you can come right back. And so I think that was really good from PowerCook to, first of all, jump there first. Go against the Azir, who is going to be really good, but I spoke too soon. PowerCook gets first blood with a gank up there on the top lane.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not the champion. It's just PowerCook playing a little bit smarter than the enemy jungler. You saw last game he had the early laning phase timing for pressure, and Jarvan, of course, really strong at doing that as well, and so there's something to be said about just Jarvan's ability to pressure early. But, man, he's showing up before God the King everywhere, every single time. So PowerCook really doing well to set his lanes up for success. He got flash out of mid lane, and now he's got assist gold onto... Ooh, my goodness.
Oh, wow, what is that? 37 hit points left on Filthy Hippie. And that's why you gank that lane first. Getting Azir to lose that, that really useful spell. Level 3 on Orianna means there will be a command protect.
Really scary.
It is really scary. I don't know that I agree with the decision to stay. At least going to get the experience from all those minions going down.
Yep.
All his cooldowns are back up.
Ooh.
Making him take a turret shot.
This gives enough time, though, for Jarvan to show up. Now,
the ward.
Smartly, yes, that was just I was just about to say. Smartly, Azir, as he was trying to be aggro near the turret, puts a ward over by the Raptors, knowing that Jarvan, this could be like super good game knowledge from the Azir. Meteors could know that because of the changes, Jarvan's not going to do his Raptors on his first rotation, meaning if you ward over, the Raptors are likely to be there and likely to be taken on his second rotation. And if Jarvan secured top lane first blood, but there's flash for Jarvan, I want to see this.
I don't think that they're going to fully aggress. I think he's just trying to help the farm happen. But there it is, actually. He goes in with the EQ. There's the shifting sands, but the flash forward from PowerCook does net the second kill for Washington State. Fantastic play there coming out of the Jarvan.
Yeah, Beta not smarted, I guess. Although Meteors does have heal available still, so I think it was just can't push enough buttons quickly enough. Because if he had got that off, he would have definitely survived and maybe had been able to turn things around onto PowerCook. I think that second part, turning things around, is a little unlikely. But Meteors could have lived there. But again, it would have cost him a summoner spell. So really well played by PowerCook there, trading his flash not only to get what could have been a heal escape, but netting a kill, and that's going to be an assist for Orianna as well.
All right, so I'm more interested on how well this first blood happened, and it popped up just like this. Over aggression, ignite in there with the knock-up, and it was just a beautiful kill right there. I think we need to get back to the top lane to see what happened, and ooh, wow, were we watching the exact same thing?
It's like a replay while simultaneously being a predictor of the future. Another nice gank to the top lane. That's now 100% kill participation on 3 kills here for WSU, setting themselves up for success. But if you'll recall, they kind of got an early lead last game, and Arizona ended up bringing it to the win with the superior damage in their composition. There's a lot more damage for certain, right, here for WSU than there was last game. So I don't think the story is set in stone in the way that it played out last one for Arizona, because the damage threats are pretty equal. If anything, it almost looks like Arizona's composition is what WSU ran last time. They have a lot of damage from mid lane and AD carry, but not really much from elsewhere. But they did make that adaptation I talked about. If you're going to maintain that same type of composition, which last time it was WSU, then you want to have like a shield heal support that can reset fights, Janna being the perfect example. So they've kind of swapped team compositions almost. Not really. It's not really that close to the same exact styles, but in terms of damage, my points stand.
Yeah, and I think that the other benefit there, Arizona's top laner wasn't as it was the Cho'Gath. It doesn't have quite the engage potential that Ornn does. Just thinking about that, that Call of the Forge God is huge. It can hit all 5 people, whereas trying to line that up with Cho'Gath is so much more difficult, especially because you basically get 2 casts of the ult from the Ornn. Oh, wow. He's taking a lot of damage, but then there's the first Cataclysm. Oh. Wow! What? He landed the Cataclysm, and then as she flashed, got the last hit.
Yeah, it was the auto attack that did enough damage.
Man.
His passive there, the Jarvan passive, does enough to just melt squishy champions like that, especially now that he's completed Warrior Enchant on his jungle item. That's going to be enough damage to take down a squishy like Janna. And she's pre-6. There's no real way out of that for her. She flashed the Cataclysm, and unless it's buggy, that should flash the damage. But you can't flash an auto attack if it already came through. So
right.
That last damage will be enough. Let's take a look at exactly how Janna died.
All right, so it looks like the cow gets the nice knock up. The disengage there gets stunned, and right in there, yeah, that
late.
Last auto attack does get, so all the damage from Cataclysm, all the damage from the passive, and now it looks like God the King might be caught out here. It is a 1v3, Filthy Hippie. Oh, but the flash from God the King does save him from the shockwave.
Smart flash, you know.
Yeah.
That's the only real way for them to keep him out, since Flag and Drag just came off cooldown there for Jarvan because he used it to get over to blue. So he's not going to have that to interrupt the Elastic Slingshot. So nice wait out, flashing the only other displacement tool that would interrupt his Elastic Slingshot. Nice play there from the jungler, God the King.
Yeah, God the King almost got that steal, but Power Kook is just in such good control of this game right now. He is still 100% kill participation. He's lagging a bit on the farm, but when you've got 3 kills, like from champions, I think you're doing okay on the golden experience there.
Yeah, you mentioned gold experience versus the total gold. Despite being 4 kills up, it's actually not that much gold separating these two teams. Only 600. That's about 2 kills worth. As you can see, the farm numbers heavily in favor almost across the board. Other than the top lane, that's 0-2, right? Then you have farm leads across the board here for Arizona, and a jungle level lead until that last camp just came through for Jarvan. It was still a level lead for God the King, despite not being involved in 4 kills. That tells you that he's not wasting his time, right? Though Jarvan has been able to create pressure, get some kills, and assist, it doesn't mean that Zach isn't doing anything. He's at least staying relevant and staying strong. He's completed his jungle item. He essentially has the same inventory right now as Jarvan, meaning he's just as relevant when this will inevitably become 4v4 to 5v5 situations. And
it'll be really interesting to see, because the same can kind of be said of the AD carries. They both have the BF swords, they both have boots, they both have a Doran's item, and that's it. Though we see the CS lead for Tristana. Later in the game, Tristana will have the range and the explosions, but anyone who plays League of Legends and has fought a Vayne knows that there is no counting her out of any team fight ever. 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 Yeah. She is so strong, dealing that % max health true damage, and especially with a Jarvan in the mix, you get a good condemn against his ultimate and just sets up the fight even better. So I want to see how that one turns out, because the AD carries are really, really strong. Yeah. Looked like an Ornn ultimate cast up there in the top lane. Yes, it was. A little bit of a trade there. Ooh. You can see it's pretty close, but then Druben with a lot of life stolen back there. Oh boy. One goes back in. He goes back in. He gets the shield. Flash forward after the cast of the Crimson Rush.
Yeah, mechanical misplay there. You could see he probably would have had the damage to take down Anguished One if he had landed that flash first before the Crimson Rush. That damage plus his passive is stacked up, as you see here. This will be a lot of healing. It gives him the movement speed, too, to reposition. That's going to be a lot. Heals off of a minion. Nice Hourglass, and Cataclysm keeps him trashed under.
Oh.
That's going to be trading.
Oh, no.
The minions!
And there we go. Power Kook does flash out of turret range. Oh, but Janna gets the Zephyr for the kill, even though God the King was on his way. Wow. A super aggressive dive. It looks like a lot of damage onto Filthy Hippie right there, too.
Stopwatch meta.
Oh, man. Great use of the stopwatch, though.
Yeah.
About to die, gets the stopwatch, is going to make it out, except for that pesky support roaming all the way up to the top side of the map. Good move from Mr. Sphex, knowing where to be. God the King also right there, ready to pick it up. Smart plays. I think a little too aggressive from WSU at that moment.
You know, they think that they can get that kill, and if it hadn't have been for Vladimir kind of wasting flash there, they could have played it a lot cleaner. You have Vladimir instead go and tank the turret. Then even if there is that stopwatch that comes through, you can reset tower aggro with the W, and it plays out a lot better than both of you losing your flash and one of you dying. It's just a little unfortunate from WSU, but I do appreciate their willingness to play aggressive, knowing that they're up in general pressure, right? They've got more gold, they've got more kills, and they just need to keep pressing the attack. Not that any one of them in this entire game is running that keystone, but simply that if you're going to play a composition that has a lot of damage and has a lot of go buttons for fighting, then if you get a lead, you need to press it and press it and press it and press it, unless you have some like other scaling, like I want to say insurance policy essentially, which you really don't have against Arizona. Arizona definitely has the late game here, barring like a full-on wombo combo from WSU.
Right. And even in terms of champion, if that weren't true, you have Ornn. Speaking of Ornn, he is going to be hit with the ultimate from Vladimir, and wow, Power Kook, all that damage from the two of them instantly. Ornn just dies.
Yeah, I mean, the Hemoplague going to buff up the damage, and then you just have, as I mentioned, you have the Vladimir be the one that starts tanking things up, and then as soon as you want to reset the tower aggro, I think he should have used Pool if he had it available. I didn't get to see, like, leading up to it if he had used it really recently.
Nah, he had it available.
I don't like using the stopwatch there. You're full health.
Yeah.
What matters? I'd rather you save that for when your pool is on cooldown and you're in a little bit stickier of a situation, but what can you complain if they get the kill? So 6-1 overall, bringing that gold lead to 2,500 or so. And now this means they're going to have to go ahead to take the first Infernal Dragon of the game, second Drake overall. And you can see they just have the vision control, numbers advantage here already. And
beautiful play right here. Jarvan gets the top lane turret with Vladimir. They take that, get the bonus gold, and now the engage is here. Boodles is going in, trying to get the trample stun here. He flashes forward, gets that one. Oh, but a great monsoon, a sombrero whiff there from Filthy Hippie. ADC win is dealing a lot of damage. Power Kook does go down, and now suddenly a lot of damage here. Druben goes in. Meteors does go down to Druben, and so does Mr. Sphex. Druben is going to get shielded there, but does go down. ADC win, dealing tons of damage. Filthy Hippie needs to get a command. Protect, but does not, and ADC win. Cleans up that fight pretty effectively.
Yeah, we saw last game that he's capable of playing aggressive with the Varus pick last time. Now his positioning is pretty good. Picks up 3 kills for himself overall. He's now up in CS. He's up in kills. He's going to have those items breakpoints even sooner now, as he already had the static shift for pushing potential. Going to have the ability to build that Infinity Edge very soon after picking up those kills in the jungle. Honestly, it's almost like every single player from both these teams swapped keyboards with the others, and now they're playing the exact opposite. Because what did we see from Arizona last game? We saw the over-aggression, tunnel vision, chase into suicide situations, which is precisely what we saw from WSU. Watch this fight once again. You're going to see here at the beginning, Alistar doesn't even start channeling the ultimate right away and starts walking in. He's down to literally like 0 health
when he
dies. Janna resets, and he pops his ultimate as he dies, right? And then Janna with the reset, that means Tristana can get the reset hops. And yes, Druben has enough damage. He's lucky that he has the kind of burst potential to get a couple kills here. It's very good that happened, otherwise it's even more of a disaster for WSU. And then, of course, Tristana able to just reset. Flashing there at the end, not necessary, but I like the idea because she doesn't have any MR, and you know that a Morella Nomicon Orianna command attack can hurt, and you don't want to take the risk of giving a shutdown when the team fight went so well for you.
The biggest tragedy of that entire fight was the command shockwave on literally 0. I want to say it was on an ally, and that ally just got a little too far away when it was Yeah, so either the death or maybe Jarvan going in a little too far, something happened, and it was cast right on top of no one, and that would have been an entirely different story had that hit even one person, because we see that finish Morella Nomicon and Filthy Hippie had the boots at the same time, but now we have another fight here. Mistro deals a lot of damage, breaks the passive from the Zac, a nice teleport to save that Bloblet, make sure that they will not go down. But now Anguished One is on the opposite side of the map with no Drake and 2 people in his lane with a Rift Herald.
Ooh, that
feels bad, man.
Yeah, the Rift Herald makes that story even scarier to tell, because now they're definitely going to trade this tier 1, essentially, no extra kills, tier 1 for teleport and a top lane. This is going to be a tier 2. They could even try, it's kind of sketchy and I don't think they should, but they could try and like stop some bases here, the Vayne and the Alistar, try and cancel this, and use Rift Herald Shelly here to try and get a little bit more damage here. Call the Forge God to say no thank you will mean that they're definitely not going to be able to break the base, but you can see just channeling the full-on teleport there for Anguished One. He's having a rough game.
Yeah,
he did so well last game. I don't think this is a comfortable pick for him. I think they just were hoping for more. As somehow they catch the Tristana likely trying to return to base or something.
Yeah, and we saw them chasing up there. On the minimap, we could see their portraits trying to get in there and deal, stop the bases. They almost got all of them, and Janna just ends up running away, being really quick. And let's see what happened before. Here's the replay. Instead, decides to go in and fight. Oh, wow.
Interrupted the rocket jump. Boodles there. Perfect.
So good, Boodles. But that was the Aftershock keystone as well that ended up netting the kill, I want to say, because she was pretty out there. Nice work from the Washington State bottom lane. It's back now to 1,000 gold lead in favor of the Cougars over the Wildcats. And that was interesting, too, when we found out their mascots. Which would win in a fight, a Wildcat or a Cougar?
I have no clue.
So far, a Wildcat is winning, but now in game number 2, these Cougars, these Washington State boys, are really, really showing that they know how to play League of Legends.
Oregon's playing later on. Maybe we can ask Zoologist.
There we go.
He does play for that, right?
He does, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I was like, this could be a really funny thing to say, or I could like fall flat if I'm actually.
No, I'm pretty sure that's him.
Yeah. So we could ask him who would win in a fight, either a Cougar or a Wildcat. Although I don't know if those are actually different. Are those perhaps like terms for the same actual species? Like
I'm not sure, but we've got another fight here. Ornn really not having a good game, like you said. PowerKook has been camping this guy. Top lane, mid lane, bot lane, doesn't matter where he is. PowerKook is there to shut down this Ornn. And I think that that's really wise here because of the fact that, first of all, it does give good position for the Baron. And now no Shockwave to come out there, only on one. Meteors takes a lot of damage, but Drubin does go down, so does Orianna. There's just no way. Boodles is now in there. What's he going to do? Is he going to try and kill God the King? I think he should. Dealing a ton of... He gets the kill. He picks up... Now he's going to get ADC and win. Boodles is going to take the Baron solo after losing 2 of his teammates. Boodles is the savior of this game for Washington State. I cannot believe he went in there and got 2 kills on it.
What the heck? Boodles here. All right, so a little bit of a clan fiesta. You see this fight happen where Vladimir gets in. He puts down a lot of damage. You can see the burst onto the backline there, forcing them towards the back of the pit. For those of you unfamiliar, Baron deals bonus damage, a significant portion of bonus damage if you're standing behind it. So ADC, he needs to reposition immediately. You're going to see these spikes come out in just a moment here. Back at the back of the pit, and that's just like half of his health, and you think that comes from Boodles, but it doesn't. It's just the Baron. You need to reposition and maybe turn onto Boodles and then reset onto the Baron. But honestly, as soon as you see that you're in vision, turn the fight, kill whoever like caught you doing it, and then either you can decide then if you want to take the Baron or not.
Right.
A little bit bad there for Arizona, but nice play from Boodles.
Oh, the Dragon Strike does go out for Mr. Svex, does not land. Yeah, crazy. And now this is the priority right now. We're at 22 minutes, 13 kills to 8. But now the gold lead has actually surged forward for Washington State. They got all those extra turrets. They're up 3 extra turrets from Arizona. This is the place to be, especially because they almost lost it for free. You better bet they're setting up to be here to stop it again.
Yeah, where we saw threats for Arizona, they're now being equalized for Washington. We mentioned how the Tristana was getting strong after she got some kills in the last team fight a couple times ago in their bottom side jungle, and that allowed her to have Infinity Edge plus Static Shiv. But then, when those are completed, you need to be able to take a good fight. Baron's not the fight you want to take. You actually want to fight champions and then take an objective afterwards, but instead they get caught out, and that gives time and, of course, donates gold back over. WSU, now you can see in the inventory, Vayne essentially the same items, the same core items, and now we're waiting on item completions for like second or third items for WSU, while Arizona is able to kind of equal those first and second core items. So when that's the case, these fights right now are actually pretty close in terms of total power for these champions, just based on their inventories. And so it all depends on who has the best engage and re-engage, disengage, Janna, and we'll see how these fights play out.
True advantage, though, goes to the Washington State top laner. But now we need to see God the King going in against 3, getting dealt tons of damage here. He is unstoppable. Janna getting a nice monsoon to heal him up. But now PowerKook goes in onto Mr. Svex, flashes out of his own Cataclysm. God the King is going to use his stopwatch, double teleports in. Anguished One gets in first, gets hit super hard, and now Meteors jumps in and gets the Emperor's Divide. Nice. He slays Druben, but a great shockwave. In goes Jarvan again. Zac is back in the fight. God the King going to get knocked into the passive form. Will not survive this one. Anguished One wants to help, but cannot. That is a 2-for-1 trade so far. And with the jungler down, and Azir's ult down, and Janna's ult down, and Ornn's ult down, I think now's the time to go for the Baron.
Yeah, and they do have the vision control. They're going to clear out that pink ward at the back of the pit, make sure it is completely blind. Tristana going to say, I'm not contesting, I'm going to back off. Mr. Svex, I don't think you should try for even a blind steal here. I don't think it's safe. If they want to jump over onto you, you know that they can here. So that's going to be Smite coming through. I like the choice for Tristana to take the mid lane in exchange.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at this fight. What's going to happen here is you see Jarvan goes in but flashes out. He's going to get really low. He can't really re-engage. But then the teleport comes through. That's a nice use of the stone plate to be extremely tanky, and the nice call of the forward dodge into multiple knockups mean you can't even get another pull there from Vlad, but he throws down as much damage as he can. The shockwave turns the fight, and then you can see enough health is left over here to maintain a safe deletion of the Bloblets. Peel back, start the Baron, even though they get low. Tristana makes the smart choice to at least trade some objective for it. Now it becomes more of a stalling game here for Arizona.
And so one thing that I want to bring up is exactly that point about Tristana taking something else. It is a 2v4 at that point. You are not going to steal the Baron. Don't go over there. Don't try it. Do something useful. And so, oh, well, PowerKook jumping in there just for some Raptor camps. A Call of the Forge God here goes in, does knock up both champions. Boodles. Oh no, nice. The interrupt from PowerKook. He is going to go down. ADC win picks that one up, and that with the Baron buff. Now it looks like we are going to see Vladimir going up to join his team as Filthy Hippie takes half of Gianna's hit points. Mr. Svex Won't be doing that again. There's the jump forward with the knockup. Boodle's going to get all the crowd control, but now Vayne is dealing damage. Shut down onto the Alistar. Mr. Svex is ignited, taking a lot of damage. Let's Bounce doesn't hit any champions. And now Filthy Hippie is going to go down next. Anguish One goes down. Mistro gets one more auto attack, and the turret aggro does pick that one off. ADC Win is the next one to get the kill. Mr. Svex setting that one up. Nice work from Arizona to clean up that fight.
Yeah, I just have one thing to say about that team fight. It's Janna. She keeps everyone just barely alive enough to make sure nobody dies to give, say, either like triumphant healing back to WSU or even just resetting the fight and keeping it safe. Because watch how this fight plays out. Watch Janna after the shockwave comes through. So here's going to be Orianna getting a beautiful multi-man shockwave. I believe it hits 4,
it hit
almost
4.
5. And that's exactly when Janna says, I have to keep everyone alive. She hits that R button, keeps everyone at like at least 100 health, but only barely. And then, yes, Mistra, beautiful Vayne play. I would like to see an aggro play right after here. She takes him down, kill the Janna. She's got 100 health. Then at least you trade that because you know that ADC is going to run after you. ADC Win, getting the win for his team fight there, and he ends up taking the deletion, and they're going to get that tier 2. 3 dragons in favor of WSU, and they had the Baron, but now they've only... I believe that was losing Baron on like all their members.
It was all
so
5.
The only thing left for them to fight with is simply their gold advantage, which is only 1,000 gold now.
And it's been at about that point for the whole game. They were up to a little bit earlier, and then they, it was only 600, up to 2,000, back to the 1,000, and it's been pretty consistent there for the last several minutes. But now it looks like Arizona has the lane here on the Drake, and they get that one pretty much for free.
Yeah, and that's just going to be a Cloud Drake. It is the 3rd possible Cloud Drake, so it would have been pretty significant for WSU. Doesn't really do too much for Arizona, but at least it denies it.
Yeah.
What I would like to see from WSU here is setting up picks. They have a lot of pick potential, a lot of burst potential. Jarvan, even without Cataclysm, he's the full tank build, right? So his job is to initiate. I'd like to see him building or purchasing, a lot more control wards to help look for that kind of pick potential. We got 2 broken stopwatches in the inventory still for WSU. If Orianna's not building an Hourglass, I want to see it gone. Sell that. Get a couple control wards. Same thing true of Jarvan, and I think hopefully more true because you don't want to see an Hourglass on a Jarvan. But this could be a good engage.
Oh, but a good disengage there from the Emperor's Divide. But now the Hemoplague does go down. Zach is left all alone. Meteor's going to take a lot of damage. Drubin does go in, gets the Tides of Blood forward, uses the Proto Belt, and gets the kill onto Mr. Svex. Mistro slays the Anguish One. Drubin does get his Hourglass off. Flash forward from Mistro. Gonna get 2 auto attacks onto ADC Win. The speed ups there. Buster shot. Flash forward from PowerCoo. Gets the slow from the Smite. Meteors is going to go down. Mistro gets that kill. And this is the aggression that needs to come after winning a fight.
Yeah.
After losing a fight, I should say. Sorry.
That's the type of engage we need to keep seeing from WSU if they want to bring this into a victory and take us to game 3. They're being super aggressive. They know that it's going to take a little bit of time for Anguish One to show up with a channel to teleport. And of course, if you can start the fight on your terms and make the enemy use their disengage tools to no avail, that's really good. So nice. Cataclysm forces Meteors to back out, but you can see Hemoplague hit a couple people. That means Drubin says, I'll take this fight. He runs off 1v3, meaning it's a 4v2 on the downside here with the front line remaining here from Arizona. WSU is definitely going to be able to take that fight. They do delete the front line. 4v2, remember? And then, yes, of course, when you're outnumbered that much, even though he takes down Janna, that's going to be Vladimir falling, but what better AD carry to chase than a Vayne? And Vayne just running them down. PowerCoo gets a nice slow, and that's going to be another kill, even though you do force the flash from ADC Win. Tristana gets away after using heal and flash and only trading 1 kill for multiple others.
There was something I missed the first time we saw that. During the replay, we saw Jarvan flash to get to his Demacian standard. I think what he wanted to do at the very end of the pull, you can flash and extend the knockup. I think he was trying to hit Azir with that. Otherwise, you do the EQ and then flash forward to get the auto attack. But it was, I saw the animation. It was probably an 1/8 of an inch flash. It did not go anywhere. I think he was trying to get the knockup.
Yeah.
Would have been a lot of fun to see that.
You can make sure that if you flash mid flag and drag, that if your champion model collides with their champion model, you will get the knock up, even if it's not even in the trajectory you were originally on. That is a mechanic you can play. Regardless, just getting to slow in that situation from Aegis there ends up being enough. But there's a nice Cataclysm, going to knock him into a couple of members.
Oh, but that was sick. The Redemption healing so much. And this is a split fight again. God the King has to flash, but now he's going to leap right into a Filthy Hippie. And Call of the Forge God hits no one. Drubin goes into the Zonias, and now he's going to be in a 1v1 that he's been winning the entire game. Mistro on a rampage picks up the kill on Zac. Anguish One needs to be out of there. And now they're going to take this mid lane turret.
Yeah, the engage with damage wins out. That's what we saw as the name of the game last time.
Slowed.
And now it's the opposite end. It's Washington who end up coming forward with engage tools with a lot of damage. Enough of a front line to just be able to take fights, but then, of course, being able to deal damage necessarily. What
is he doing there?
The idea for Anguished One here is actually smart. He's pulling them away from the base, trying to stall out the match. There's still 15 seconds on a couple of members. If he can at least stall this out, he stops them being able to end the game. Whether or not they could otherwise is a different question, but at the very least, you buy your team some time, and you try and at least stop like the minions so that they can't keep aggressing. The bad side here being that you can't really escape, and Baron is on the table. Now,
see, rather than give the death, I would have backed and went to clear the bot lane myself. Instead of waiting the 10 extra seconds for ADC Win and Mr. Sphex to go and get it, and then dying as well, and surrendering their Baron. Instead, give up the Baron. You've already lost the mid inhibitor. I don't think that they were capable of ending the game. You still have both your Nexus turrets and your team coming up. I think it was slightly unwise to go that route. Decent thinking, but I don't think it was perfect. But let's go ahead and take a look at what caused all of that. That great Cataclysm onto Mr. Sphex, and now gets hit by, we saw just how much that Silver Bolt dealt. Here on the other side, though, Drubin just massacring the other side of this fight. Anguish One not able to do anything with his ultimate. Just really, really unfortunate here.
Yeah, I mean, that team fight was really just Vladimir running away from it. It ended up being good that they banned it in Game 1 because coming here into Game 2, leaving that open, we're seeing why it was banned out. Drubin on this champion is just taking the game by storm.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a reason Vladimir gets played and banned. He's seen a lot more popularity recently, and he is so stinking hard to kill while dealing so much damage. Speaking of tanky, there's everybody jumping in. Cataclysm with the Monsoon and everything. Anguish One is still alive. In fact, Mr. Sphex picks up a kill, and now the God King goes in 1v3. He is going to survive, and ADC Win gets the kill onto Drubin. There is the kill for Mistro. He does have the Guardian Angel, and he might go in. No, he gets hit into the Guardian Angel. Filthy Hippie needs to be careful, gets a great shockwave. ADC Win does throw him away with the Buster Shot. ADC Win needs to be careful. And there's the double kill for Azir. It is, wow, 4v3. Crazy team fight underneath that turret.
Yeah, 4v3. Nice shockwave at the end there by the Orianna to try and keep Vayne alive. Does keep Vayne alive, but let's watch that fight again because it lasted for quite a while. What happens here is you see Jarvan get interrupted by the Janna. He goes in for the Cataclysm, flag and drag all together, and Janna resets the fight really well. Anguish One, the first one to fall. Drubin buys some time with his Hourglass, but you can see Filthy Hippie on the backside can only really stay at max range here. Mistro tries to be aggressive. This was the mistake, is playing so far forward that she has to use heal and is definitely going to lose Guardian Angel. Now, Filthy Hippie uses this window of opportunity to say, all right, multi-man shockwave, and tries to reset the fight, but during all of this, Meteor's on the wing, able to just say, Sand Soldiers, do my bidding! And he takes the fight. So it ends up being a 4-for-3 overall, really bloody on both sides. And they lose the Nexus turret, so not a complete disaster by any means for WSU. They take a Nexus turret out of it, get the Dragon on the back end. So now they're up to 4 Dragons, and Mistro's still alive. Just lost the GA for that fight.
Yeah, that one extra Baron buff that is still on Mistro is going to be really important. It looks like they're all going to gather here on the bottom side of the jungle, and I think they're just going to push that same turret. They need to be a little bit more careful, I think, because the Guardian Angel is down. But other than that, it looks like they've got most of their tools. You see several flashes still, or not several, 2 out of your 5 flashes, but on key members, Vladimir and Jarvan, their flashes are going to be critical for getting the engage and the initial damage onto the fight.
Yeah, and you can see Baron buff just timed out on Vayne, the last member who had it. So they're not going to have that kind of siege capability that they were hoping for. You still got supers in mid for just a little bit longer, and you can see Vladimir, the main man. He's kind of trying to create that pressure over there when the rest of his team is pushing this bottom lane. They don't have a wave for another 30 seconds here, so Vlad's kind of alone and hopes to draw enough attention that they can stall. But I just actually don't see the possibility of a really winning engage here from WSU because they don't really have that. This isn't even a cannon wave, and now there's not pressure in mid lane either. Vladimir's really separated. This is where Arizona, if they felt comfortable, ought to be engaging.
Yeah, for sure. And especially on the side of WSU, I don't think they want to engage. They have the pushing mid lane, and look at the top side. That minion wave is definitely in their favor. So if they can just hang out here on the bot side, let the Baron respawn, get the mega minions into the base. Oh, but now the inhibitor does respawn. Drubin doing a really good job of drawing aggro away from that bot side. I think they are. They're just posturing around the possible objectives so that the top one will take itself. Because once someone goes up there, it needs to be one person. Either it's going to be Tristana or Azir, and those are the most dangerous. But someone's got to go take care of that top wave because it is massive.
It is a long way out, though. It's going to be another minute or so before it hits the turret. And that's a long time for Arizona to decide exactly how they want to handle this. They do have to handle it some way or another. They only have the one Nexus turret, so this could be the end of the game if things go terribly. But you can see this is out of vision. Elastic Slingshot comes through.
Ooh, Call of the Forge God cast as well. Emperor's Divide throwing everybody. There's the Let's Bounce. But now suddenly Vladimir is back in the fight. Anguish One is still alive, but now Zac is going to go down next. Drubin has to pop that. Zonya's Anguish One is dead. Meteors is still very healthy, going to deal a lot of damage, but Mistro is there. A shockwave to get the kill there. God the King is still alive. They are going to kill Alistar. ADC Win is alive, but is going to be the next target from Vayne. Gets the kill there. God the King is going to go down next. Double kill there for the Vayne. Mistro proving the AD carry position to be one of the most important. Power Kook is going to go onto the turret, and now top wave crashed. Mid lane is down, and now they're going to take a third inhibitor.
There's
second
no
inhibitor.
way they don't end the game here.
They
There's
have
only the one
to.
Nexus turret. They've got tons of minions and tons of damage.
Well,
And
there's
so
the
that's a good
knockup,
job.
and there's the ace. Filthy Hippie picking that one up. Mistro and Power Kook setting him up very well. They are now on to the Nexus. 11 seconds for the next opponent to arise, and that is it. Game number 2 goes the way of the Washington State University Cougars.
Yeah, really well played. I mean, you could see that there was just too much damage in that fight. We'll watch it one more time before going to break here. You can see, nice engage. Remember, they have to start this fight right now, otherwise they have to deal with top wave. Vladimir was separated. We can see God the King gets way too low early. Vladimir shows up just in time to catch multiple people in Hemoplague, and then you have basically non-existent health bars. Yes, Tristana's positioning is perfect, but right here you need to turn and attack the other side if you're Tristana. She's, of course, trying to hit whatever she can, but now you've got a 3v3 situation. They kind of get baited on this, and the invisibility from Vayne means she can tumble in, get that first strike off, meaning Tristana is half health from what she even had remaining in just an instant, and then, of course, from here they'll end the game. But decent fight from both these teams. It was really just Vladimir turning the tides of blood.
Tides of blood, very good.
In this
and
matchup.
you were giving me wordplay props. That's really good.
So,
awesome
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, excellent Vladimir play, honestly. Drubix did work.
Yes, he did.
Both in the solo lane situation, then, of course, showing up in team fights when and where he needed to. It's going to be a break for us to let these teams prepare for their tiebreaker.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see these two teams going head-to-head for our Game 3. We'll be right back with more League of Legends action. The Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers returns in 10 minutes for the final game of this match. Don't go anywhere.
gospel. At the end of a black hole, coalesce beneath the ground. All done by my own hand. I allow my feelings to become sand. Oh, if you're gonna cut me down, better do it quickly now. Now you can cut me down, but I won't stay for long. I'll grow back again. Oh yeah, my roots are strong. My roots are strong. Say the word, say the word. Say the word, goodbye. Say the word and we can run around the earth and around the sun. Say the word and we can stay. Forget about that better place. And I know you're healing, 'cause I know the feeling. The streets stop breathing. I don't wanna let you. Say the word, say the word. I give into the lesser fight. My body aches to be.
All right, we're back. You're watching the PACG's League of Legends Spring Tournament. We're into week 2 here. This is day 1. We're just about ready for champion select for game 3. Again, this will be the tiebreaker and match point between Arizona's Wildcats and WSU's Cougars.
I'm super excited about this because exactly what we said needed to happen. The changes in the draft, the changes in play style, that happened. And it was amazing to watch, especially PowerCook going off and doing exactly what he needed to do. He had the pressure. He got the first blood. He got the first ganks. He burned the flash on the Azir. He was always in the right spot. Those Jarvan plays were phenomenal.
Yeah, it was the early pressure from PowerCook that ended up snowballing this, I think. It's fair to say that it snowballed it into the win. Because not only did he get mid lane pressure, you mentioned the flash from Azir, but then he ganked top lane, ends up netting first blood. It was the assist for Vladimir, but it was first blood, so that's a good 200 gold chunk for the Vladimir to start rolling. And then returns. It was in the middle of our replay of first blood that we come back and we're like, wait, were we watching a replay? Or was that live action? Because it seems like Orange just died to a gank again. And, I mean, you can only do so much when you have Jarvan coming in from his own pressure, creating vision, and making sure that he gets the good ganks off. So PowerCook really setting up Vladimir for success to be the monster in late game that he really was. So really well played by the jungler, top lane. And that ends up netting the Wildcats the win, right? So now it's 1-1. I think the draft was amazing. It ended up being that both of these teams swapped strategies almost entirely.
Yeah, we talked about that in game, how Arizona, the first game, was kind of losing in the lanes, but then ended up winning the team fights. But then it came back, and Washington State was winning the team fights afterward.
It ends up being that you have almost the SKT strategy, where you pick what champions you know you can team fight well as a team later. Instead of drafting for win lane, win game, that almost is like the Echo Fox strategy we see now, with like Hootie in the top lane just smashing and then snowballing into victory, then if you just say, look, we scale until it doesn't even have to be late game, at least like mid game at some point, or our first teleport play, our first 4-man dive at the bottom lane, something like that. We play until we're ready to team fight, and we know that's our strength. Then you draft to that, rather than draft to win lane, win game, or even late game scaling. So let's hop right into our champion select again. This is Game 3, the tie-breaking match between Arizona and Washington State. These two teams putting on a showcase. They're talented players playing extremely well.
They really are. And another couple things we need to bring up was just how safe Filthy Hippie played with that Orianna that last game. Able to let Jarvan roam around and then give the time for Mistro to scale up on the Vayne, getting 2-3 items, and then suddenly Vayne was everywhere, taking all of the fights. And we're looking back here into the bans. Everything's looking really familiar. Skarner, Kennen, Tarek, and Gnar, all bans from the first 2 games as well. Let's see if they change anything else up here. We should see Thresh or Varus and Sejuani coming through as the bans
I
here.
expect a Vladimir ban just because of how much
he did really well.
Yeah, and he just took over the game, so I expect to see that come through. Otherwise, this is looking like the same exact draft we've seen time and again from both these teams. There's the Vladimir ban.
Vlad.
And if things go the same, you're going to see, what, Sejuani?
It should be Sejuani.
And then mid lane bans, Azir.
Yeah, Azir and Ryze and Orianna and Ahri were the first 4 in the other game. But then we actually saw a lot of bot lane bans at the end of the phase in game number 2 with Easy and Zaya and then the Tom Kench.
So what I'd like to see is actually, instead of focusing on the 80 carry bans, because both these, both Mistro and Win play pretty much the same champions. We saw them even trading champions. I would rather see those bans either go more to top lane, if you're putting a Vladimir ban, if you're putting a Kennen ban, Gnar ban, more top lane bans, or even support bans could be useful because those have made the difference. Alistar comes through in the first rotation, your first pick. That's a lot of priority put for Arizona.
I think a lot of that has to do with how well Washington State used it the first game, and then it was Arizona picked it the first game, and then it was taken by Washington State, and then now it's picked on Arizona again. I think that is really wise. We've seen just how effective that pick is.
Yeah,
tanky, engagey, crowd control-y, just exactly what they need to win these fights. But that's a really solid-looking bot lane there for Washington State with the Varus Janna.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Alistar and win the game, they get Alistar, win the game, definitely want to first pick it. Apparently seems to be one of the substratum picks here that'll just spell out W-I-N here, not the same spelling as their 80 carry. But yeah, you definitely want to prioritize it. So bottom lane pick for both these teams now. Junglers likely to be coming through here, and that's exactly what it's going to be. So there's the bottom lane plus jungle. This seems to be your standard competitive draft.
And I think there's a reason for that. First of all, you want to match, right?
Yeah.
So if you see the support first picked, you want to make sure and pick your support. But in addition to that, what are you going to put with the support? So you don't get that drafted afterward. You pick both of those. So then when you go back to the blue side, you need to match the 80 carry, and then you want to lock in jungler so you don't give a counter pick first thing for your solo laners.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that if you don't have some sort of really high priority pick elsewhere, like in a solo lane, that you're not giving that kind of information over to let them counter pick. Red side here for Washington State, so they'll ultimately get counter pick in whichever solo lane they decide to go for. But we can see the bans coming through heavily focused on mid lane. Only the one more top lane ban of the Cho'Gath. So that's Orianna and Xerath taken away from Filthy Hippie. You saw his shockwaves last game. Those were incredible.
Yeah, they were.
Almost, I would go so far as to say, were it not for her shockwaves, her meaning Orianna, were it not for those, then Vladimir doesn't get to the point. They don't get to scale. They don't get to go so far and win the fights that they need to, turn things back around to get to the point where Vladimir takes over the game. Orianna doing her job rather silently, at least in that game too. But Victor, I'm really interested about this pick because we haven't seen him much in competitive play. He's not been bumping back into the meta even in solo queue despite the buffs in the recent patch to his shield, his basic damage. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I disagree with it.
Okay.
In the face of the draft here, but I don't know Filthy Hippie. I don't know how exactly comfortable he is on this champion and whether or not that's just his pocket OP strategy. But on the looks of things, there's so many other picks that are available that I would rather see come through that are more meta. And it's not because I think people should be meta slaves. It's just that Victor isn't on the top of many lists, whether it's meta or not. He's just not winning solo queue. He's not winning in competitive play. Unless this is your comfort pick and it's really, really strong, I'm really hoping that Washington State has a plan to play around this rather than just picking it as a comfort blind.
I think a lot of it has to be with the play style. He played the Orianna and the Xerath, and I think that Victor is one of those get in the fight and fight kind of champions. And so I think that it's maybe to really take advantage of the setup that, especially right here, locking in with that Camille. If you have the Jarvan and Camille ultimates sectioning people off, you have such a focused area to throw all of your damage, because everything is really linear for Victor, except for that Chaos Storm, but it will just deal massive amounts of damage inside the arenas that his teammates are going to be making. But I like the answer in the Kassadin. You were hoping it was going to come out in game number 1. Because it was one of Meteor's champions, right?
Yeah, one of his top played.
And so I like that he's a similar kind of style where you have to be inside the fight. He's melee range. He has to jump in and everything like that. And so I think that might be a good answer to the Victor. But then I am a little confused about the top pick here with the Jace. I don't know if that was as wise, just especially with the dives that were happening last game. Jace is not going to fare well against another Jarvan camp. He would do worse than the Ornn did, and so I wonder if he's now wanting to be the one shoving up the lane and not being under his own turret.
Generally speaking, Jace is going to have the early game, first couple of levels, he's going to have that kind of pressure, the range versus melee, his ability to interrupt Camille's jump, knockback. It's a skill matchup, to be sure, between these two champions. Generally slightly in favor of the Jace, just because of the ranged advantage early and poke potential. But in order to be winning that matchup, based on your passive strengths, right, just in the matchup itself, you have to be playing aggressively.
Yeah.
You're a fighter. The same is true of Camille. You have to be playing aggressively if you want to press any advantages you build for yourself. But what does that mean? These two early game junglers, right, are going to have so much pressure in this top lane. Mid lane, not going to be the case. Both of these are going to be playing relatively safe. It's the shortest lane. It's the safest lane. And then bottom lane, both of these 2v2s have a lot of disengage potential, a lot of safety. So I imagine top lane is where we're going to see a lot of early game action. The Jarvan is going to be there. The Zac is going to be there. And Camille and Jace are just not going to stop fighting.
And I like that thought. As we were talking about it, I thought, oh, top lane's going to be like the arena. But then I was thinking that that's a word you can use to describe both the ultimates of Camille and Jarvan. And then it got me to thinking, wouldn't it be kind of a waste to combo the two of them on top of each other at the same time? Because you're already trapped. I mean, Kassadin can get out. You can, if you perfectly do the To the Skies from Jace and all that kind of stuff. But it's just an interesting thought. I want to see them use those kind of side by side as opposed to on the same 2 or 3 targets or so.
I like the idea of forcing a Rift Walk from Kassadin off of a Cataclysm and then using Hextech Ultimatum to follow that up, because then Kassadin is forced to remain stationary even if he wants to recast his ultimate. Not only will he be wasting mana to do so because he can't escape the Hextech Ultimatum, but essentially, if you engage first with Jarvan in the 2v2, it's likely that Jace is going to use his knockback. If he uses it then, now you have no extreme way to get Camille out of that. I'm actually not certain of the interaction between Let's Bounce and Hextech Ultimatum.
Because he is untargetable.
He's untargetable, but if he's channeling it while Hextech Ultimatum has already been cast, and let's say it was cast on Zac, then can he exit it with Camille?
I think it would take it with him.
That's weird. It's weird. I don't know if we'll ever see the interaction.
That's really
in this
weird.
Game, but I would love to know what that interaction is. So if any of you in Twitch
Yeah.
happen to know
let us
randomly what happens if you have Zac already fighting a Camille, she uses Hextech Ultimatum on him, and then he starts using Let's Bounce to pull her out of it. if that's at all possible. I'd love to know. You can
That
hit us
would
up
be
in the
really
chat.
good.
We'll see if it happens in this game. But honestly, it's not a game changer at this point. What will be the game changer, Ben, I think, will be which one of these fighters can get first blood or hold their flash while winning a trade. Because the flash being down for either one of these is massive. Even more massive, I think, for Jace. Because
Yeah.
Jace doesn't have that ability to dash off a wall and just, like, escape if you see trouble coming. So Jarvan, I mean, PowerCook, we saw him perform really well on Jarvan last game.
Oh, yeah.
Winning the early game, like, for sure. It was definitely PowerCook on that Jarvan doing a lot. So if he can do more of the same and set Camille up to be just, like, massive and super, super scary, that could spell similar win conditions than what we saw in Game 2, which is get Druben ahead, Druben takes over his 1v1 into taking over team fights.
And I want to see that as well. That's the point of Jarvan, is getting into the fights, doing the engage, getting the damage, and just the fact that you can build him straight tank and he still shreds armor. His Q deals so much. Ooh, but not looking good here for Camille. To the skies does get a lot of damage there. Camille is going to back. Druben doesn't want to start this lane behind. Anguished One trying to stop it. Give as much time alone in the lane as possible. I like that.
If you complete that base, okay, so he does cancel it. Druben, if he actually completes that, he has to use teleport. He falls behind, and then he's down teleport. Now, yes, nice choice by the Anguished One to take that first little trade there, meaning he's going to have that health advantage. Even more pressure, that means, onto PowerCook to try and get Druben ahead, despite him being down in that health trades.
Oh, man, and he is just wanting to stop all sorts of even inclinations of this being a good idea to gank here. But I think he needs to be a little careful. If he's pushed too far, then he'll just be opening himself up to a nice Jarvan combo.
Yes, and it will be Jarvan starting on the bottom side of the map, meaning he'll be topside around the 3.5-minute mark or so with double buffs. Level 3 probably as well, meaning he'll be super, super strong in whatever fight Jarvan decides to take. And Zach trying to gank mid early, similar to what we saw from PowerCook last game, getting a flash in mid lane can do a lot for you, but hopefully it means enough to make a difference. Here, this is Jace having the early advantage, as I talked about. He's going to have the 1v1 advantage for a while until it gets to the point where Camille can turn these fights back around. Say, oh, you're going to jump on me? I'm actually going to jump against the wall and stun you. You're going to have to perfectly time your spells. But, ooh, Jarvan could get pinched here in the river.
And now Druben is not full hit points, but does get the stun up there. Gets the slow. Flash burned. PowerCook does force that one out. And now Zach does want to disengage. A good play, effective gank, getting the flash out. We talked about the importance of the flash in this matchup. Now PowerCook is hanging around here, whereas God the King did leave.
I expect to see this return gank. This is smart from
yeah.
Jarvan. The flash is already down. Yes, there's a lot of minions for Anguished, and that's why he's baited here.
Here he goes.
But there you go.
There's the knockup and the jump in Q. First blood from Camille. Beautiful play.
Yeah, and that means she's safe, too, to take all this farm without getting harassed underneath the turret. Teleport is available for Anguished One to return, but one of the worst things you can do is lose your flash, die to a gank, or have to return, teleport back up. This is what's happening. The smartest thing that Cook can do here is return once again to the top lane. He has his flash. He probably still has red buff ticking, and if you can kill Anguished One again, top lane is over for Jace. Absolutely over, like twice over.
So now Camille is going to go ahead and jump back, has that first blood kill gold, wanting to pick herself up an item to help in those trades. Double long swords. That means that's going to be the Tiamat going to be coming out the next time he goes back. And I like that. It's a much more aggressive build than rushing straight for the components of the Trinity Force that Camille relies on so heavily.
Yeah, you definitely want the wave clear potential that Tiamat can give you. It is otherwise rather lacking. Nice engage. That's a Ignite that comes through.
And that is the stun. Boodles is taking a lot of damage, but so is Mr. Flex. Mikro and Yen are fighting. Win. Gosh, oh my gosh. I keep trying to read it because But now we do see it. Jarvan is moving up toward the top side. You have 2 flashes to go in on this guy. I think Drubin is a little bit aggressive, does get the stun. PowerKook is there. He does not land, but he flashes and gets the knockup like we talked about last game.
Yep.
And that's the repeat gank. And they're going to get really good pressure here on this turret.
Yeah, and that's going to be more minions crashing into the turret. That's going to be all golden experience that just can't ever be taken by Anguished One. He's going to fall behind in levels, fall behind in gold experience. He's now down 2 kills through honestly no fault of his own. He just is getting a lot of pressure from PowerKook out of here, and it's not being returned elsewhere by God the King. He got Flash off of Filthy Hippie in mid lane really, really early. Level 2. He kind of what we saw in Game 2 from Jarvan, but now we're not seeing the same from God the King. He needs to show back up. He's got a nice invade to steal some of that farm and experience away from PowerKook, with PowerKook spending that extra time near the top lane, getting stuff for it. Now we need to see more than just invade farm taken away here for Zach, especially if he's going to get spotted out. Yes, he does.
Oh, he does get spotted out going over the wall, but he's going to elastic slingshot out. We can see it all on the minimap, and then get the blast cone as well, meeting up with Meteors in the mid lane on that Kassadin. Nice invade.
Yeah, we saw PowerKook doing similar early game stuff last game as we're seeing this game, just about as successfully, and God the King didn't fall behind in gold or experience. In fact, he had an experience advantage at one point. So you can see he's not wasting his time, but we need to see him trying to make the same kind of pressure. Nice flash from Caitlyn.
It was a good buffer there too. Mr. Sphex is going to make it out alive, but only just. Flashes burned from both the AD carry and support here for Arizona. They need to be careful. And now it's going to be a 3v1 power. Oh, and speaking of needing to be careful, the Anguished One almost losing a fight here. Flash forward to get the W and the auto attack.
Oh.
Drubin picks up the kill with the Tiamat.
Yeah, that was really well played by both of them. I mean, it took Drubin's flash to actually get the kill onto Anguished One, so you would think all things equal, Anguished One would have won that 1v1 otherwise, or at least came out safe. But that means knowing that there's going to be the base coming through in top lane, the teleport's not available, with pressure in the bottom lane, forcing the flashes out from the nice gank from PowerKook, that's going to be an Infernal Dragon unless it gets stolen. Teleport could come through here from Meteors.
They do get the kill there on the Drake, and a nice Chaos Field gives Filthy Hippie the first kill of the game here. Meteors and God the King are in the fight, but that's a nice knockup from PowerKook. The Hourglass comes out. Meteors is still alive, but now the Bloblets are there for God the King. Mistro still pretty healthy in compared to ADC Win, and that's a kill there for Boodles. Jump away with a 90 caliber net, and Mistro doesn't quite have the mana for the snipe. I don't think he has the damage for it either, but Meteors gets hit with that Zephyr. Filthy Hippie gets a nice auto attack after the Q, and fight advantage to the Washington State Cougars.
Yeah, and you know, they actually do get the Infernal Drake on top of it. The teleport came through not in time to contest, and Zach jumped over the wall later. We'll get a replay in just a moment of how that fight played out. It wasn't too bad for Arizona, though they lost a lot of members and it ended up being bad, but the idea was okay, I think, to try and take that fight. They had the teleport advantage. As long as you actually are able to take the fight, then you can go for it. But they kind of just walked in to the gravity field, and Chaos Storm, Victor turning that fight around. So here's how it goes.
And now we see the knockups into the Chaos Storm. That's an instant kill onto the Alistar. A nice the stretching strike to pull people together. The stopwatch there to stop. Not a lot, but it gives Caitlyn the chance to get a nice headshot.
She had to flash away from the Chaos Storm while Meteors started fighting against multiple low health members. So you can imagine maybe if Caitlyn was able to either flash forward or stay in the fight with a little bit more health, then she might have actually been able to take that fight. But because she was so unhealthy, had to flash away, she's like 2 screens away when a relatively healthy Meteors is trying to fight multiple members. If you had DPS there, maybe things turn out differently. But ultimately, the fight just kind of unfolds poorly for Arizona, despite not starting terribly. So WSU take a massive advantage off of it, though. Not only is it a 3,000 gold advantage, now 5-1 in kills, but they've got the first Infernal of a game that will mean everything here. It is the tiebreaker, and both these teams scale relatively well.
Yeah, I think that the the biggest thing here is now Camille will have the teleport advantage. Drubin did not channel didn't even have it available for that last fight. And so if another fight erupts that needs assistance on the opposite side of the map, or if anything else goes wrong that requires the teleport, Drubin will be there first.
Yeah, this is a good counter gank. He's got Zach on vision there, and they'll know that he's walking away, too, with their superior vision in the river. This is going to be a nice 1v1 trade.
Drubin has the ultimate, does throw down the Hextech ultimatum, flash forward into the Cataclysm.
The dunk.
It was beautiful. The double dunk, and that's what you were talking about right there. You get the Camille ult, so he can't leave, and then the Jarvan afterward, or vice versa in the case of the Kassadin that you were talking about. But God the King decides to go in. Mistro is now the target of a lot of damage. The ultimate goes down onto Mr. Flex. Boodles gets hit by a lot of damage. Power Kook slays God the King up on the top side, and now Mr. Flex is going to go back in. Stops just to get the ward in the brush there.
Yeah,
wow.
A decent trade back and forth. It was the heal used by Mistro to reposition and then force the fight in a re-engage. Nice ultimate from him. Does connect onto both. Win actually separates himself to not take the extra proc, but that's going to be a decent trade in the 2v2. In top lane, what happened was you ended up having a good 1v1. We talked about the comboing of Cataclysm and Hextech Ultimatum. If it's someone you worry about using a repositioning tool, then you start with Cataclysm and you say, get out of my Cataclysm, I dare you. Then they use it, and now there's no way for them to reposition even within Hextech Ultimatum. Or you do it in the opposite. Start with Hextech Ultimatum, there's no way they dodge out from Cataclysm, especially when they're probably, as Jace did, going to fight towards the edge of it, try and kite back, but then they're towards the edge. There's no way for them to dodge Cataclysm one way or the other, so nice coupling of those ultimate spells nets them some kills, and that's going to be now Drubin. He was the Vladimir from last game that just popped off and took the game over. Ends up being 3-0-2, only 12 minutes in to this match. And
Camille's going to start getting scary. That's the thing about Camille is I remember
she already is.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, she is already scary. Got the Sheen and the Tiamat there, going to deal a lot of damage. But the fact is that she's going to scale even better. Getting the extra movement speed from the Phage, getting the attack speed, and the bonus damage when you complete the Trinity Force. It's just going to be so much, and it's sticking power. It's amazing how close and how long Camille will be on you. And here we go again. Mr. Kook and Drubin just wrecking this poor Anguished one. There was the double interaction again. And Drubin on a rampage now. I have got to tell you, the Anguished one is in anguish.
Yes, indeed. And, I mean, honestly, that was a nice flash from him. It dodged the damage from Cataclysm and repositioned him for Hextech Ultimatum. But those two spells poorly comboed in that situation, but those two spells together are always just going to lock you down, especially in little numbers, right? It's only just a 2v1. It's not a full-on team fight.
And there's that teleport we were talking about coming in. Filthy Hippie gets the Chaos Storm down. Drubin is just massacring this team, helping get the double kill for Filthy Hippie. That teleport was amazingly timed. They were trying to make the dive. There's no way for Jace to follow, no way for anybody else to get there, and it was actually a double teleport. We can see that there on both Filthy Hippie and Drubin on cooldown now.
And this will be the second Drake going over to WSU. They seem to have gotten Arizona's number. They took a loss in Game 1, figured out what they did wrong, fixed it for Game 2, and now they're doing even better coming into Game 3. Nice macro strategy, really playing in. Nice double teleport, as you mentioned. We've talked about this Camille and how she's popping off. She just got another couple of assists there in that fight off of her teleport. And I've played enough AD carry. It was close, and that's just going to be a dead Zach for certain. I've played enough AD carry to know that when it comes to the inventory and how strong the Camille is right now, she has 6 more items in her inventory than she needs to kill Caitlyn. So
6.
Yeah. You don't even... Yeah, you could build a null magic mantle as Camille, and Caitlyn would still be sad when you're this far ahead in experience. Level 10 Camille right now. 2 levels up over this Jace with true damage in her kit and all that sort of lockdown potential. What do you do? if you're Caitlyn here, as soon as these fights begin, as you just saw one, to be team fights, there's no escape. There's no way you get out of it. There wasn't even Hextech Ultimatum for that last fight, and Camille was still sticking on top of this Caitlyn. Caitlyn basically gets 100-0'd by the AoE.
And that's exactly what we were talking about, the bonus movement speed you get from the phage and just all that damage. And now it looks like the ultimate goes on to Mr. Specs, trying to get the knockaway here. Filthy Hippie going to kite back, but will they get the kill onto Mr. Specs? They do. Boodles is there supporting Mistro. Will we see a nice ultimate there? No, ADC Win does pick up the kill against Mistro, but Boodles there to get revenge for his fellow bot laner.
Yeah, you know, well played by Caitlyn there. Win backs himself up into the brush, making sure he gets enough headshots, takes down Mistro through a couple Janna shields and an exhaust, gets the kill for himself, turning it into a 2-for-1 rather than a 2-for-0. So nice play there from Caitlyn. Hopefully you see more of that, and that's the way that they get back in. Despite it being 2-13, there's only a 3,000 gold lead. That seems unheard of to me, for it to be so minuscule. It'll be increased, of course, by these towers falling, but to see tier 1 in the bottom lane following 16 minutes into the match when it's 2-13 is actually pretty surprising, and they're not even getting it. So
and here's the other thing that I want to say is impressive. Look at Jace. Just barely finishing that item. He is 0-5 against this Camille, ahead by a tiny bit in the CS, but almost won a fight against her. That speaks to the power of Jace. That's why you pick this guy, is because he is a fighter, and if you play it wrong, you will lose.
I want to know what snack Anguished One has with him right now.
Yeah.
Because if he's right about food untilting him, he's got to have some sort of, like, I don't know, some amazing
like
snack.
full lasagna or something. But there's
go all Garfield on us.
Amazing fight right there. All of the damage, all of the jumps, and they take down Filthy Hippie.
No flash on Victor. One of those immobile champions, not going to be able to reposition any other way. So you just run at him when you have champions like Alistar. Really nice play there. Nice interrupt, though.
It was a good buffer there, and now Meteors is in on the fight. Camille is there, gets the stun and the kill. That's 6-0 for Drubin. Nice engage there from PowerKook. Even though he doesn't use that Cataclysm, he didn't really need to get the win in that fight. Boodle's going to take a Piltover Peacemaker, but be just fine.
Could have gone a lot better for WSU, I was going to say, had Jarvan not been 50 mana short for Cataclysm when he had like 3 people right next to him. They would have been a lot faster about deleting out Meteors and probably would have been able to lock down Win here. His flash down, he probably could have repositioned with a 90 caliber net, but you're stuck kind of at this situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And the cool thing is, not only are the ultimates a nice combo here for Jarvan and Camille together, but when Cataclysm's down, Camille can use the terrain to gap close in a team fight. So you start off with a Cataclysm, like I said, then you can use that to reposition towards the backline already, get there, start dealing your damage off, wait for Nightingale Net to come through, and then, of course, you can use Hextech Ultimatum to just stay right on top of a Caitlyn.
That was unfortunate that the laser did not reach into that gravity field and kill all those minions. Filthy Hippie wanting to set that up to be an easy, wave clear, but just barely short on that. And good positioning from Arizona overall. They almost got out, but the engaged distance for Camille with that hook shot is just absurd when you can hit a champion. But now we do see, there's the airborne. PowerKook does land the Cataclysm, and there's Camille doing exactly what you were saying. Mr. Specs is going to be the next to go down. Jace finishes the teleport, throws a shockwave, but it does nothing. Still a Hextech Ultimatum available for Drubin. They are not going to find anybody else, but another fantastic engage from PowerKook. This guy is on point.
He is this evening. Ooh, nice knockback. Boodles here showcasing how to cast that spell. He knocks him out, and there's no revive here for the Zac. He's not even going to have those Blobwoods to recombine. Nice Janna play.
Beautiful to disengage the Elastic Slingshot, and then the ultimate from Mistro there to keep him in place and just take those last 2 auto attacks and get him out of there. And it looks like this is WSU running away with the game. We're coming up on 20 minutes. They are 14 kills ahead. Now we do see the largest mid-game deficit of 4,000 gold, let's say. No, yeah, it's 5. because 3.8 is close enough to 4. That's a significant lead compared to everything else that we've had this exact set of games.
Ooh.
And now there's a good interrupt so that Win is not the first target, but now Mr. Specs he's going to go down.
Yeah, he doesn't have his ultimate. He already died through his ultimate in the last fight that looked almost exactly like that in the mid lane. And then you can see Hextech Ultimatum was already used on to the Alistar, but the flash forward, this could be bad.
And that is the shutdown. And that right there, everyone, is why you got to be careful. You may be fed, but you're not 1v2 under turret fed.
Yeah, especially when you separate yourself from your team like that. There's already the neutral objective. That's the type of play that would allow Arizona to come back into this. So you got to slow it down a little bit. You gave yourself the shutdown over. Ooh, in the pit. Could be a steal.
It is not a steal. It is really close again. God the King being so close. I think that's the third objective he almost stole.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I think he would have, but Mistro picked that one up. We saw that Varus got the credit for that. So that last spell or auto attack, no smite for Power Kook.
Yeah, just a couple hundred health made the difference there. Auto attack
Oh my gosh.
from Mistro was able to bring it out, or it might have been the spell when he was firing at the Zac. But it ends up being a nice, secure third Drake now in favor of WSU. Their gold lead is still around the 4,500 to 5,000 mark, as you mentioned, and most of that gold is on Camille and Jarvan. There's a little bit more of a lead that's happening for Victor, and that's mostly just from his kill credit, kill participation. But you can see Jace, decent farm, right? The same true for Caitlyn and for Cassin, despite being down in kills overall. Everybody's staying pretty dang close in farm. Zac's even up, right? And so is Alistar.
And you and I talk that gold means nothing unless it's turned into items. Look at that. Jace has the Serrated Dirk in addition to his Ghost Blade. That equals, roughly, if we're just saying items themselves, Trinity Force and Tiamat. He's only behind, the combination of what the Doran's Blade with the Longsword would be in the Jarvan's Fist. And then looking at Zac, he is definitely behind in compared to Jarvan. But then in the mid lane, you got one item if you count the Hex Core, 2 items here in the bot lane and on the supports. It's all really, really even. But now the engages are there. God the King wants to get Filthy Hippie. He flashes away, is going to get hit. Nice Cataclysm there to keep the meteors there.
Camille.
One more auto attack. Camille is here, keeping Win completely out of the fight. Drubin gets that kill. Mistro is going to pick those up. Drubin now going to kill the Anguished one. And God the King gets a nice heal off the smite on the Scuttle Crab. But that is an ace in favor of Washington State.
Yeah, the nice last little W there from Boodles, taking away the triple from Drubin. But you saw Drubin not even teleporting in, just walks in from the bottom edge there, turning the fight around. Even if it could have been going in favor of Arizona, there's no way it doesn't for WSU. So here we go. You see they start the Baron off, which is a good choice. They had the vision control, but then they need to peel off immediately, and they try to, but they still have the aggroed Baron, meaning when Cassidy shows up, when Jarvan shows up, take people down. Jarvan does fall really quickly, same with Victor, but then you can see the damage is Caitlyn, and she's separated from the fight, and Varus is still able to be in there. Camille picks off the side, turns back in, and then, of course, low health targets, the easiest possible for Drubin to pick off, and even Janna to get it over herself.
Get that last
3-0-15 now on the Janna. The perfect pick. I mentioned it in Champion Select. Even a member of Twitch chat went so far as to mention how it would be a good pick to come through, and when it did, it's now become one that's taken over the game, essentially.
Yeah, and we can see that the Victor, definitely a good pick. Look at this guy. He's 4-2-6. He's doing really well. He's only about 15 behind in his CS there, but he's working it. Getting those Chaos Storms, getting the Gravity Fields to get the stuns. He's in the fights and doing everything he needs. Whether he wins the lane or gets the kills or not, he's there helping, and his team is coming ahead. League of Legends is a team game. Ooh. Without your team there, Budos does have to flash, but Queen of Disengage gets that Howling Gale and saves his own life, and Drubin on a killing spree again. That's a solo kill.
Yep, she's that strong. You can't really leave her alone in the side wave. You and I have casted games that have kind of turned into this, where you actually can't leave someone alone in a 1v1 split if you know that they can't take the 1v1. And you see Camille getting the solo kill on the Jace, taking the turret. How do you respond? You still can't send someone down there to fight her. You have to have someone who has intense wave clear, and that begins to be the story here for Arizona. They're lacking wave clear. Not a single one of their champions is really quick at wave clearing. You see the static shiv come through for Caitlyn, but she's not designed to wave clear. A static shiv plus a Piltover Peacemaker might clear one wave, but you got to wait for those cooldowns. It's a lot of mana costs, and of course, you lose those tools to team fight. Let's take a look at that solo kill here for that Camille on the bottom side. This is in Vision. The Baron, we're not going to go to that replay. We want to see this Baron fight. So what we do see is it's down to half health. This is on Vision from the side.
The fight is going to be here. Elastic Slingshot goes in with the ultimate from Alistar already in. 900 health. Mistro slays Meteors, and now he gets the kill on to the Caitlyn as well. That is the Baron for the blue team, and Let's Bounce pulls two of them out, but that's a Cataclysm there onto God the King. Win is all alone, just hitting people everywhere. Power Kook is there to get the dive in. ADC Win almost takes down Power Kook. Does take out Janna, but goes down to Jarvan, not Filthy Hippie. All right, and so that is an ace, but Baron stolen, and then I want to say reclaimed, but not, because you don't get the buff from Washington State.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really nice fight, honestly, by Arizona and WSU. They both played to what they hoped were their strengths. Caitlyn shows up a little bit late, but let's watch how this fight plays out, because it was really close. So you can see Mr. Sphex goes in, God the King goes in, they're still about 1,700 health, they stop hitting the Baron, and then they re-engage on it, and Smite will be early from Jarvan, Zac will steal it, but look down here at the bottom, you can see immediately deleted is this casting because he gets locked down by Varus ultimate, and then you can see Varus can reset, get a couple of heals off, and then he's able to just basically lifesteal and free hit onto Mr. Sphex because his ultimate was gone. And now God the King gonna have his Bloblet show up, and you can see Win here actually able to do a lot of work. I don't think the flash there was necessary because he already had his auto attack cooldown. He's in the brush, you might as well turn there, but can't fault him for getting a couple kills. And honestly, if he had more lifesteal in his kit and his team was not that so far behind, like imagine he had lifesteal in his kit.
He would have won that
probably
fight.
1v4s. Like really nice positioning there. So I like that play, and that gives you a little bit of hope here for Arizona. Even though their base is now broken, they didn't lose an inhibitor at all, but they've lost 2 inhibitor turrets, meaning the Camille split push is that much scarier. Because who do you send to deal with her? She does have magic resist. She does have a lot of health, meaning if you send someone who deals physical damage, she's going to chase him down. If you send Cassid in here, then even though she can't really chase him down and kill him, what is he going to do? He can't kill her. The best he can hope to do is, like, kind of wave clear, but he's not a champion that's built for wave clear.
Drubin just playing around with the back timings here. The other answer is you could send more than one person to get him. It seems kind of counterintuitive, but sometimes getting that pick, it exposes you a little bit on one side of the map, but it might just be the way you get it, because if you can then collapse with the rest of your team, just make sure they don't die on the other side, and it might work. But now I think they're going to try and set up for this 5v4 here with Camille still in the top lane, and WSU doing exactly what they need to do. Look at them kiting back. They don't want to fight right now. God the King tries to jump in with the Elastic Slingshot. Ooh, has to flash away from that gravity field.
Okay, now you have to peel back, and you have to, commit multiple resources. As you mentioned, Jihadre, you have to get multiple members onto that Camille. She's probably already done, essentially, taking this inhibitor. There it goes. It's down. And you can see they're sending the multiple members, but all she has to do is disengage and wait it out. And with the new wave showing up, unless disengage goes perfectly for Arizona, then disaster is on the books, essentially. So you can see, clearing out the vision, getting ready to Elastic Slingshot, but Camille's now on the second inhibitor on mid lane. Yeah,
they have Jace there, but honestly, like we said, what's he going to do? Alistar is there to get the engage. They are fighting Camille. Are they going to get it? There's the unstoppable for the Hextech Ultimatum, and that was a 3v1.
That's good for Arizona.
Yeah, but they did it right at the right time. There weren't minions at the turret, so now Mistro is going to flash away from God the King. He is getting hit by all of the crowd control and the damage. Suddenly, it's a 4v4, and there's a Cataclysm down onto Caitlyn. Alistar jumps in and gets the knockout. Janna resets the fight. Meteor Warriors is the next target. Does not go down to the victor, but everyone
Damn.
else does. Mr. Svex is the last one alive. Triple kill for Mistro. 4 for 1. You stopped the Camille, great, but you lost everything else in the fight afterward.
Yeah, a little bit of a forced engage, really, by God the King. He had lost his flash before, so it means he can't get right on top of him. Nice flash from Mistro, repositions him away, and then the Grouty field's right there. You lock down the Zac. He can't use his... I mean, the best hope for him would be immediately start channeling his Let's Bounce to disengage himself, but then how do you take a fight from there? It ends up being just a nice disengage, reposition fight for WSU. They're going to try and get a couple more kills to have the KDAs. That'll be the Nexus falling, though. Congratulations here to WSU. Well fought, slow and steady improvement, honestly, from game to game to game. Ends up being a victory in a best of 3, 2-1 in their favor.
Yeah, I want to say MVP of the series definitely goes to PACG.
Oh, without question.
That guy was everywhere, every time, every play, exactly where he needed to be. Even in their loss, he was still countering. He was still in the right spots. He was doing what he needed to do.
Yeah, in their loss, he still got them ahead super early, and by doing so, stalled out the game enough to make it close. They did lose. Take it to game 2. They redraft and set themselves up for success with better picks, try and mirror what they've lost against, and execute properly. And it was PACG setting up solo lanes for victory. I mean, he got Vladimir ahead, he got Oriana ahead, and was able to play to those strengths, snowball that into late game, and their team fight was really good. And then, of course, you saw more of the same early game pressure here from PACG's MVP for certain. I absolutely agree with you, Jahadre. That's going to end it for this first match of the day. Congratulations once again to WSU. They bring out the win against Arizona in a hard-fought, gritty match between these two great teams. So great showing for sure. After the break, we'll see University of Oregon and Stanford University go head-to-head in their own best of 3 on Summoner's Rift. You don't want to miss that matchup either. The Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers returns right after this break.